true scary stories for sleep. Welcome to the Midnight Echoes. Before we dive into tonight's stories, I'd love to know, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Drop a comment below. It's always fascinating to see where our viewers are tuning in from. If you enjoy the stories, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get comfortable, unwind, and prepare for tonight's eerie adventures. As a member of a search and rescue team in Idaho Springs, I've faced many challenges, but none as chilling as the night we encountered something truly inexplicable. We were on a night training exercise, honing our skills in the rugged terrain. The air was crisp, and the forest was eerily silent. The only sounds are footsteps and the occasional call of a night bird. Little did we know, we were about to come face to face with a haunting presence. The exercise was going smoothly until we received a sudden call about a missing hiker. Our team quickly shifted from training mode to real-life rescue. We split into groups and ventured deeper into the forest, our flashlights piercing the darkness. The eerie silence was unsettling, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The air grew colder, and an eerie mist began to settle over the trees. As we pressed on, we found signs of the hiker. A discarded backpack, footprints leading further into the woods. The trail led us to a clearing where the mist was thickest. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the trees, sending shivers down my spine. My partner, Mike, and I exchanged worried glances, our senses on high alert. We moved cautiously, the haunting feeling growing stronger. We reached the edge of the clearing and saw a figure moving in the mist. It's tall, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. The creature was unlike anything I had ever seen, a grotesque blend of human and beast. My heart raced as the creature turned towards us, its gaze piercing through the darkness. The air was thick with tension, and I knew we had stumbled upon something supernatural. The creature lunged at us, and we barely had time to react. We dove out of the way, our flashlights dropping to the ground. The creature's growls grew louder, more menacing, as it circled us. We scrambled to our feet, adrenaline pumping, and grabbed our radios to call for backup. The rest of the team arrived quickly, their flashlights casting eerie shadows in the mist. The creature retreated, disappearing into the forest. We regrouped, shaken but determined to find the missing hiker. The creature's presence was a chilling reminder of the danger we faced. We pressed on, following the trail deeper into the woods. The eerie silence was broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant calls of the night. My heart pounded with every step, the memory of the creature's glowing eyes haunting me. Hours passed, and we finally found the hiker, huddled and terrified. He had seen the creature too, and was in a state of shock. We quickly assessed his condition and decided to get him out of there as fast as possible. The journey back was tense, every shadow a potential threat. The hiker's story mirrored our own encounter, describing the creature's grotesque form and haunting presence. Back at the base, we debriefed, sharing our experiences. The hiker's account confirmed what we had seen, but the authorities were skeptical. They searched the area but found no evidence of the creature. Our encounter was dismissed as a hallucination, brought on by the stress of the search. But we knew the truth, and the fear remained. The experience left a lasting impact on our team. We continued our work with a heightened sense of caution, always aware of the eerie presence that might be lurking in the woods. The story of our encounter spread, becoming a chilling legend among search and rescue teams. The forest, once a place of beauty and adventure, had become a site of haunting memory. Even now, the memory of that night sends shivers down my spine. The creature's glowing eyes, the chilling growls, and the eerie mist are forever etched in my mind. Idaho Springs remains a place of mystery and fear, a reminder of the unknown dangers that exist in the wild. My duty as a search and rescue member continues. Now I'm always on guard, ready for the next encounter with the unknown. Camping in far north Queensland had always been on my bucket list, so when my friends Luke and Ben suggested we take a trip, I jumped at the chance. The dense forests and remote locations promised adventure and tranquility. We packed our gear and set off. excited for a week of exploring the wild. Little did we know, our trip would turn into a chilling experience that would haunt us forever. We set up camp in a secluded area, surrounded by towering trees and the sounds of the forest. The first couple of days were blissful, filled with hiking and swimming in crystal-clear streams. But on the third night, things took a terrifying turn. We were sitting around the campfire when we noticed a man watching us from the edge of the forest. His face was severely scarred, and his eyes held an eerie intensity. Luke called out to him. The man didn't respond. He simply turned and disappeared into the trees. The encounter left us unsettled, but we tried to brush it off. We joked about the strange hermit of the forest. The memory of his haunting gaze lingered. That night, I found it hard to sleep. The image of the scarred man's face etched in my mind. The next day, we decided to explore deeper into the forest, hoping to shake off the eerie feeling. As we trekked through the dense underbrush, we stumbled upon a makeshift shelter. It was crudely constructed from branches and leaves, and the area around it was littered with animal bones. A chill ran down my spine as I realized this was where the scarred man must live. We quickly decided to leave the area, not wanting to provoke any unwanted attention. As we made our way back to camp, we felt a constant sense of being watched. Forest, once serene, now felt oppressive and sinister. That night, the atmosphere around the campfire was tense. We spoke in hushed tones, our eyes constantly scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. Around midnight, we heard footsteps circling our campsite. The sound was faint at first, but it grew louder, more deliberate. My heart pounded as I strained to see into the dark forest. Suddenly, the scarred man appeared at the edge of the clearing, his eyes glowing with an eerie light. He stood there watching us with a chilling intensity that sent shivers down my spine. Ben grabbed a flashlight and shone it towards the man, but he didn't flinch. Instead, he took a step closer, his movements slow and deliberate. We backed away, fear gripping us. The man continued to approach, his face twisted into a grotesque grin. The air was thick with tension, and I could barely breathe. Luke shouted at him to leave, but the man ignored him, his gaze fixed on us. Just as the tension reached its peak, a loud growl echoed through the forest. The scarred man stopped and looked towards the source of the sound. Without a word, he turned and vanished into the trees. We stood there, stunned and terrified, unsure of what had just happened. The growl had saved us, but from what? Question haunted us as we packed up our camp in a hurry. We decided to leave the forest immediately, not wanting to spend another night in that eerie place. As we hiked back to our car, forest seemed to close in around us, every shadow and sound a potential threat. The memory of the scarred man and his haunting presence was etched in our minds. We drove away in silence, fear lingering in the air. Back in the safety of our homes, we tried to make sense of what had happened. The encounter with the scarred man remained a chilling mystery, a story we only shared with close friends. The beauty of far north Queensland was forever tainted by the memory of that haunting night. The experience taught us to respect the unknown and to be cautious when venturing into remote areas. Even now, the memory sends shivers down my spine. The scarred man's eerie eyes, feeling of being watched, and the chilling growl are forever etched in my mind. Far north Queensland, with its wild beauty, holds a dark secret that we will never forget. Our camping trip turned into a nightmare, a haunting reminder of the dangers that lurk in the wilderness. Being home alone as a teenager can be both thrilling and a little scary, but nothing prepared me for the chilling encounter I had one summer evening. My parents were out of town, and I had the house to myself. I was enjoying the quiet, watching TV with our two dogs, Max and Bella, by my side. The evening started off peacefully, but it quickly turned into a nightmarish experience. It was around 10 p.m. when I first noticed something strange. Max, usually calm, started growling at the front door. Bella soon joined in, barking fiercely. My heart pounded as I approached the door, peeking through the peephole. First, I saw nothing but darkness. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a disheveled man lurking near the bushes. Clothes were torn, and his face was partially hidden by a hood. He moved closer to the door, his eyes scanning the windows. A chill ran down my spine as I realized he was trying to find a way inside. I quickly locked all the doors and windows, my hands trembling. The man continued to prowl around the house, his presence sending waves of fear through me. I grabbed my phone and called my grandfather, who lived nearby. Trying to keep my voice steady, I told him about the man outside. My grandfather assured me he was on his way and told me to stay calm. I hung up and tried to keep the dogs quiet. They were too agitated. The man's shadow loomed closer, his eerie silhouette haunting my every move. Minutes felt like hours as I waited for my grandfather. The man began knocking on the windows, his eyes peering in with a chilling intensity. I backed away, my heart racing. Suddenly, I remembered the panic button on our alarm system. Pressed it, and the house was filled with a loud siren. The man recoiled, startled by the noise, and stumbled back into the yard. Just then, I saw my grandfather's car pull up. He rushed to the front door, baseball bat in hand. The sight of him gave me a surge of relief. The man, realizing he was outnumbered, took off running down the street. My grandfather burst into the house, checking to make sure I was safe, called the police, who arrived shortly after, and began searching the area. The police took my statement and assured us they would patrol the neighborhood. Despite their reassurances, I couldn't shake the fear that gripped me. The memory of the man's haunting eyes and his chilling presence lingered in my mind. My grandfather stayed with me that night, and I finally felt a sense of security with him and the dogs by my side. Over the next few days, the police kept an eye on our house. The man was never found. The experience left a lasting impact on me, and I became more cautious and aware of my surroundings. The thought of what could have happened if my grandfather hadn't arrived in time sent shivers down my spine. The safety of my home had been violated, and the fear of the unknown stalker haunted me. Even now, I sometimes catch myself glancing out the window, half expecting to see that eerie silhouette lurking in the shadows. The memory of that night remains vivid, a reminder of the dangers that can lurk even in the safety of your own home. My parents installed more security measures. The haunting feeling of vulnerability never completely faded. The encounter changed me, making me more vigilant and aware of my environment. I shared my story with friends and neighbors, urging them to be cautious and prepared. The man's chilling presence was a wake-up call, a reminder that danger can strike when you least expect it. My dogs, Max and Bella, were my heroes that night, their instincts saving me from a potentially dangerous situation. Years later, the memory still sends shivers down my spine. The disheveled man's haunting eyes, the sound of his knocking, and the sense of fear are forever etched in my mind. My home, once a place of comfort and safety, became a site of a terrifying encounter. The experience taught me to always be prepared and to trust my instinct. Being home alone will never feel the same again. Camping along a river in Asheville, North Carolina, was supposed to be a relaxing getaway for my partner Jamie and me. The scenic beauty and serene environment promised a perfect escape from our hectic lives. We set up our tent by the water, the gentle sound of the river providing a soothing backdrop. Little did we know, our peaceful trip would turn into a chilling experience we would never forget. The first day was wonderful. We hiked, fished, and enjoyed the tranquility of the forest. That evening, we decided to light a campfire and relax with some weed, letting the calm wash over us. As the fire crackled and the stars appeared, we noticed a lone hiker approaching our campsite. He looked a bit rough around the edges, but seemed friendly enough, so we invited him to join us. The hiker, who introduced himself as Sam, accepted our offer and sat down by the fire. We shared some weed, and he started talking about his adventures. At first his stories were entertaining, but then he began asking bizarre questions. "Ever wondered what it's like to be a serial killer?" he asked with a haunting grin. Jamie and I exchanged uneasy glances, the mood quickly shifting from relaxed to tense. The air grew colder and an eerie silence settled over the campsite. Sam continued to ask disturbing questions, his tone becoming increasingly menacing. He asked if we believed in the supernatural, and if we had ever seen a ghost. His eyes had a chilling intensity, and his grin never wavered. The once friendly hiker now felt like a looming threat, and I could sense Jamie's growing discomfort. Trying to defuse the situation, I suggested it was time to call it a night. Sam, however, seemed unfazed and insisted on staying a bit longer. He asked if we knew how to defend ourselves and pulled out a knife, claiming it was for protection. The sight of the blade sent shivers down my spine, and I knew we had to get out of this situation quickly. I motioned to Jamie to start packing up our things. As we hurried to gather our belongings, Sam stood up and moved closer, his eyes locked on us with a chilling intensity. "Leaving so soon?" he asked, his voice dripping with malice. Jamie and I kept our responses short, trying to stay calm and not provoke him. My heart pounded in my chest as we packed up the tent. Eerie silence broken only by the crackling fire. Suddenly, Sam lunged towards Jamie, knife in hand. I reacted instinctively, grabbing a burning log from the fire and swinging it at him. The flames startled Sam, and he stumbled back, giving us a chance to run. We bolted through the forest, the adrenaline pumping through our veins. The eerie darkness and the sounds of the night made the escape even more terrifying. We didn't stop running until we reached the car, breathless and shaking. We jumped in and sped away, the memory of Sam's haunting grin etched in our minds. We reported the incident to the local authorities, but when they searched the campsite, Sam was nowhere to be found. The police took our statement seriously and promised to patrol the area more frequently. The experience left us both shaken. Our dream camping trip turned into a nightmare. We couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, and the memory of Sam's disturbing questions and knife haunted us. We decided to take a break from camping, the fear of encountering someone like Sam again too great to ignore. The once peaceful river and forest now felt like a place of lurking danger. Even now, the memory sends shivers down my spine. Sam's haunting eyes, the eerie silence, and the fear of what could have happened are forever etched in my mind. Asheville, with its natural beauty, holds a dark memory for us. Our encounter with Sam was a chilling reminder that danger can lurk even in the most serene places. The experience taught us to always be cautious and aware of our surroundings. Years later, we've returned to camping, but with a newfound vigilance. The memory of that night remains vivid, a haunting tale we share with friends to warn them of the potential dangers. The eerie encounter changed us, making us more prepared and cautious. Camping will never be the same, but we've learned to respect the wilderness and the unpredictability it holds. Camping in the woods outside of Mosby, Kentucky, with my friend Matt was supposed to be a weekend of fun and relaxation. The dense forest and remote location promised an escape from our daily routines. We set up our tent near a small creek, the sound of running water adding to the peaceful ambiance. Little did we know, our trip would turn into a chilling nightmare. The first day was perfect. We spent our time hiking, fishing, and enjoying the beauty of nature. As night fell, we built a campfire and settled in for the evening. The stars were bright, and the air was filled with the sounds of the forest. We laughed and shared stories, feeling completely at ease in our secluded spot. The peaceful setting made it easy to forget the world outside. Just as we were about to call it a night, we heard a strange noise coming from the woods. It sounded like something big was moving through the underbrush. Our laughter died down as we listened, trying to determine what it could be. The sound grew louder, and an eerie feeling settled over us. Matt grabbed a flashlight and shone it towards the noise, but we couldn't see anything. We decided to ignore it, assuming it was just a deer or some other animal. We climbed into our tent and tried to sleep, but the unsettling feeling lingered. In the middle of the night, I woke up to the sound of heavy breathing right outside the tent. My heart pounded as I listened, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. The breathing was deep and raspy, sending chills down my spine. I nudged Matt awake, and we both lay there, frozen with fear. Suddenly, the tent shook violently as something clawed at the fabric. We scrambled to get out, our minds racing with terror. We burst out of the tent, armed with our flashlights, but saw nothing. The forest was eerily silent, the only sound our ragged breathing. The tent was torn, and we knew we couldn't stay there. We grabbed our essentials and decided to hike back to our car in the dead of night. The forest, once welcoming, now felt menacing and hostile. Every rustle of leaves and snap of a twig made us jump. The journey back seemed endless, the darkness closing in around us. Just as we thought we were safe, we heard the heavy breathing again, closer this time. We turned around and saw a pair of glowing eyes staring at us from the shadows. The creature emerged, grotesque blend of man and beast. It was tall and covered in matted fur, its eyes filled with a haunting intelligence. The sight of it froze us in place, our minds unable to process the terror before us. The creature let out a low growl, and we knew we had to run. We sprinted through the forest, the creature chasing us with an unnatural speed. The branches whipped at our faces, and the uneven ground threatened to trip us up. My lungs burned with the effort, but I couldn't stop. The creature's growls grew louder, a chilling reminder that it was right behind us. We finally saw the lights of our car in the distance and made a desperate dash for it. We jumped into the car, locking the doors and starting the engine. The creature slammed against the side of the car, claws leaving deep gouges in the metal. We sped away, our hearts racing and minds reeling from the encounter. The drive back to town was a blur, the terror of the night still fresh in our minds. We reported the incident to the local authorities, but they found no evidence of the creature. The experience left us both shaken, memory of the creature's glowing eyes and haunting presence etched in our minds. We vowed never to return to those woods, fear too great to face again. The peaceful forest outside Mosby, Kentucky, had become a place of nightmares, a chilling reminder of the unknown dangers that lurk in the wilderness. Years later, the memory still sends shivers down my spine. The creature's grotesque form, the heavy breathing, and the sense of being hunted are forever etched in my mind. Camping, once a favorite pastime, now fills me with dread. The encounter changed us, making us more cautious and aware of our surroundings. The Mosby Woods hold a dark secret, a story we share with caution and fear. An RV trip to the Chugach National Forest in Alaska sounded like the perfect adventure for my friend Dave and me. We were excited to explore the rugged beauty of the area and enjoy some time away from our hectic lives. The drive through the forest was breathtaking, with towering trees and pristine lakes. We found a secluded spot to park the RV, feeling a sense of peace and tranquility. First day was incredible. We hiked through the forest, fished in a nearby stream, and marveled at the stunning landscapes. That evening, we built a campfire and settled in for a relaxing night under the stars. The air was crisp, and the only sounds were the crackling fire and the distant calls of wildlife. We felt completely at ease in our remote campsite. As night fell, an eerie silence settled over the forest. The sounds of nature seemed to fade away, replaced by an unsettling stillness. We shrugged it off and went to bed, eager for another day of adventure. Around midnight, I was jolted awake by a loud bang on the side of the RV. My heart raced as I listened, trying to figure out what had caused the noise. Dave woke up, and we both grabbed flashlights to investigate. Stepping outside, we saw nothing unusual, but the eerie feeling remained. We decided to stay alert and keep the fire going, hoping the light would deter any curious wildlife. The forest was dark and silent, the fire casting long shadows that danced in the night. We tried to shake off the unease and went back inside the RV. Just as we were starting to relax, RV shook violently. We heard another loud bang, followed by a low growl. Panic set in as we realized something was out there, something big and aggressive. We locked the doors and windows, peering out into the darkness with our flashlights. The beam of light caught a glimpse of a large, shadowy figure moving around the RV. The creature was massive, glowing eyes that seemed to pierce through the night. It circled the RV, its growls growing louder and more menacing. The RV shook again as the creature slammed into it, leaving deep scratches on the metal. Dave and I huddled together, our hearts pounding with fear. The creature's presence was both chilling and haunting, a nightmare come to life. We knew we had to get out of there. Dave jumped into the driver's seat, and I kept an eye on the creature, trying to keep it at bay with the flashlight. The RV roared to life, and we sped away, a creature chasing us through the forest. The drive was a blur of fear and adrenaline, creatures' growls echoing in our ears. We didn't stop until we reached a small town on the edge of the forest. We reported the incident to the local authorities, but they were skeptical. They searched the area, but found no sign of the creature. The experience left us shaken and exhausted, the memory of the creature's glowing eyes and haunting growls etched in our minds. We decided to cut our trip short and head back home, the fear of another encounter too great to continue. The drive back was filled with silence, each of us lost in our thoughts. The beauty of the Chugach National Forest was overshadowed by the chilling memory of that night. We vowed never to return, the forest holding a dark secret that we couldn't forget. The once peaceful RV trip had turned into a nightmare, a story we would share with friends and family with caution. Even now, the memory sends shivers down my spine. The creature's massive form, the violent shakes of the RV, and the eerie silence are forever etched in my mind. Camping in remote areas now fills me with dread, fear of the unknown lurking in the back of my mind. The Chugach National Forest, with its stunning landscapes, holds a dark and haunting secret. The encounter changed us, making us more cautious and aware of our surroundings. We share our story to warn others, hoping to prevent them from experiencing the same terror. The forest remains a place of beauty and danger, a reminder that nature holds secrets we may never fully understand. Our RV trip to the Chugach National Forest is a chilling chapter in our lives, one that will never be forgotten. Training exercises for our search and rescue team are usually routine, but one particular exercise turned into a chilling experience that I'll never forget. We were deep in the woods, simulating a rescue mission. The air was crisp, and the forest was eerily silent, adding an unsettling undertone to our task. I had ventured off alone, my dog Max by my side, when I stumbled over a root and fell, injuring my ankle. The pain was sharp, and I knew I couldn't walk on it. I radioed my team, but the dense forest interfered with the signal. Stranded, I sat against a tree, trying to stay calm. Max stayed close, sensing my distress. Suddenly I heard rustling in the bushes. My heart skipped a beat as a man emerged, his appearance disheveled and his eyes wild. His presence was eerie, and a chill ran down my spine. He approached slowly, his behavior unsettling. "Are you lost?" he asked with a haunting grin. Something about him felt off, and I could sense Max's unease. I tried to explain my situation, but his responses were vague and cryptic. The atmosphere grew tense, and the man's behavior became more disturbing. He moved closer, his eyes never leaving mine, and I felt a growing sense of dread. Max growled, his hackles raised, but the man seemed unfazed. He started muttering to himself, his words incoherent and eerie. The forest around us felt darker, more oppressive. I tried to stand, but the pain in my ankle kept me grounded. The man's behavior grew more erratic, and I realized I was in a potentially dangerous situation. My heart pounded as I desperately hoped my team would find me. Just as the tension reached its peak, Max barked loudly, and I heard voices calling my name. Relief washed over me as my teammates emerged from the trees, flashlights cutting through the darkness. The strange man backed away, haunting grin fading. My team quickly assessed my injury and helped me up. The man vanished into the woods, leaving behind an eerie silence. We made our way back to the base, my teammates supporting me. I recounted the encounter, and they shared my unease. The man's behavior was too strange to ignore. We reported the incident to the local authorities, but there was little they could do without more information. The forest felt haunted by his presence, and the memory of his wild eyes stayed with me. Back at the base, we discussed the encounter. The man's disheveled appearance and unsettling behavior were a mystery. Some suggested he might have been lost or mentally unstable, but his haunting grin and cryptic muttering hinted at something more sinister. Chilling experience left us all on edge, a stark reminder of the unpredictable dangers that can lurk in the wilderness. The next few training exercises were marked by caution and vigilance. Memory of the strange man haunted our discussions, and we became more aware of our surroundings. The forest, once a place of beauty and challenge, now held an eerie undertone. Max remained my constant companion, his protective instincts a comfort in the face of the unknown. Even now, the memory sends shivers down my spine. The strange man's wild eyes, the eerie silence, and the sense of impending danger are forever etched in my mind. The experience changed me, deepening my respect for the forest and the unpredictability of our work. Search and rescue is a vital task, but it comes with its own set of chilling challenges. Years later, I still share the story with new team members, a cautionary tale about the unknown dangers we might face. The encounter taught me to trust my instincts and to rely on my team and Max for support. The forest holds many secrets, and our job is to navigate them with care and respect. The strange man in the woods remains a haunting memory, a reminder that we must always be prepared for the unexpected. Camping in an RV in the Olympic Peninsula sounded like the perfect getaway. The dense forests and remote locations promised an escape from the daily grind. I parked my RV in a secluded spot, surrounded by towering trees and the sound of a nearby stream. First day was everything I hoped for: peaceful, relaxing, and completely disconnected from the chaos of the city. As night fell, I settled into the cozy RV, feeling secure in my little haven. The forest outside was dark and silent, a stark contrast to the bustling campground I was used to. I drifted off to sleep, lulled by the gentle rustling of leaves and the occasional call of a night bird. Little did I know, my serene retreat was about to turn into a chilling nightmare. I was jolted awake by a loud scratch on the side of the RV. My heart raced as I listened, trying to determine what could have caused the noise. The scratching continued, followed by a low, guttural growl that sent shivers down my spine. I grabbed a flashlight and cautiously peered out the window, but the darkness revealed nothing. The scratching grew more intense, the RV shaking with each blow. Panic set in as I realized something was trying to get inside. I locked all the doors and windows, my hands trembling. The growling grew louder, more menacing. I could feel the presence of something large and dangerous just outside. My mind raced with fear and confusion. I tried to call for help, but my phone had no signal. Trapped and terrified, I sat in the center of the RV, clutching the flashlight like a lifeline. The creature continued to assault the RV, its growls echoing in the night. The air inside felt thick with tension, and every second stretched into an eternity. The eerie silence of the forest was now a backdrop to the haunting noises outside. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, the RV shook violently, nearly knocking me off my feet. I could hear the creature's claws scraping against the metal, leaving deep gouges. My heart pounded in my chest as I struggled to come up with a plan. The only thing I could think of was to drive away and hope to lose the creature in the process. I jumped into the driver's seat and started the engine. The roar of the RV a small comfort against the terrifying growls. I slammed the accelerator, and the RV lurched forward. The creature let out a deafening roar, but I didn't look back. I drove through the forest, navigating the narrow, winding roads as fast as I could. The growling faded into the distance, but the fear remained. I didn't stop until I reached a small town on the edge of the forest. I parked the RV under the bright lights of a gas station, and finally felt a sense of relief. I inspected the damage, finding deep scratches and dents all over the RV. The sight sent shivers down my spine, a haunting reminder of the creature that had attacked. I knew I had narrowly escaped a terrifying encounter. I reported the incident to the local authorities. They were skeptical. They searched the area but found no evidence of the creature. The experience left me shaken and exhausted, the memory of the growls and scratches etched in my mind. I decided to cut my trip short and head home, fear of another encounter too great to continue camping. The drive back was filled with silence, each of us lost in our thoughts. The beauty of the Olympic Peninsula was overshadowed by the chilling memory of that night. I vowed never to return, forest holding a dark secret that I couldn't forget. The once peaceful RV trip had turned into a nightmare, a story I would share with friends and family with caution. Even now, the memory sends shivers down my spine. The creature's terrifying growls, the violent shakes of the RV, and the eerie silence are forever etched in my mind. Camping in remote areas now fills me with dread, fear of the unknown lurking in the back of my mind. The Olympic Peninsula, with its stunning landscapes, holds a dark and haunting secret. The encounter changed me, making me more cautious and aware of my surroundings. I share my story to warn others, hoping to prevent them from experiencing the same terror. Forest remains a place of beauty and danger, a reminder that nature holds secrets we may never fully understand. My RV trip to the Olympic Peninsula is a chilling chapter in my life, one that will never be forgotten. A South African safari had always been a dream of mine. When the opportunity came, I jumped at the chance. The first few days were filled with breathtaking views and incredible wildlife. But on the fourth day, I got separated from my group. Panic set in as I realized I was alone in the vast wilderness. The sun was setting, casting eerie shadows across the landscape. My guide's words echoed in my mind. Always stay with the group. I tried to retrace my steps, but the terrain was unfamiliar. Every rustle in the bushes made my heart race, and the haunting calls of animals added to my fear. As night fell, I stumbled upon a small clearing. Relief washed over me when I saw a campfire in the distance. Thinking it might be my group, I hurried towards it. But as I got closer, I realized something was terribly wrong. The camp was filled with armed men, poachers. My heart pounded as I hid behind a tree, watching them. The poachers were heavily armed and looked ruthless. I knew I had to get out of there before they saw me. But as I turned to leave, I stepped on a dry twig. The sound seemed deafening in the silence of the night. Poachers looked up, their eyes scanning the darkness. I held my breath, praying they wouldn't find me. The leader barked orders and a few men started towards my hiding spot. Panic surged through me and I bolted into the bush. Chase was on. The poachers shouted angrily as they pursued me through the dense undergrowth. Branches scratched at my skin, and the uneven ground threatened to trip me with every step. The fear of capture drove me forward, my heart racing as fast as my legs. I ran until my lungs burned, and I could hear the poachers crashing through the bushes behind me. Desperation fueled my flight, but I knew I couldn't keep running forever. In the dim light, I spotted a large tree and scrambled up, hoping the height would offer some safety. I perched on a sturdy branch, trying to quiet my ragged breathing. The poachers spread out below, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. They searched for what felt like hours, their voices growing more frustrated. The tree offered a chilling vantage point, and I could see the determination in their eyes. The eerie silence of the night was broken only by their muttered curses and the occasional snap of a branch. I clung to the tree, my muscles aching, but I knew I couldn't come down. The poachers were relentless, and the fear of being caught was overwhelming. Eventually, the poachers gave up and moved on, their voices fading into the distance. I waited until I was sure they were gone before climbing down. My body was exhausted, but the adrenaline kept me going. I needed to find my group and get to safety. The eerie sounds of the night surrounded me as I made my way through the bush, every shadow a potential threat. The haunting memory of the poachers' camp fueled my determination. As dawn broke, I stumbled upon a dirt road and followed it. After what felt like an eternity, I saw a familiar Jeep in the distance. Relief washed over me as I realized it was my guide and the rest of the group. They had been searching for me all night. I waved frantically, and they sped towards me. The sense of safety was overwhelming, and I collapsed into the Jeep, grateful to be alive. Back at the lodge, I recounted my harrowing experience. My guide was furious that I had wandered off, but relieved that I was safe. The staff reported the poachers to the authorities, but I couldn't shake the fear that they were still out there. The safari, once a dream come true, had turned into a nightmare. The memory of the poachers and the chilling haunted my thoughts, a constant reminder of the dangers lurking in the wilderness. Years later, the memory of that night still sends shivers down my spine. The eerie wilderness, the relentless poachers, and the terrifying chase are etched into my mind. It's a story I share with caution, knowing the fear it can evoke. The experience remains a testament to the unpredictability of nature and the chilling reality that danger can strike when least expected. The safari, once a source of joy, had become a haunting reminder of my narrow escape. Caught in a sudden storm while hiking in the mountains, I sought shelter in an abandoned cabin I stumbled upon. The place looked old and decrepit, but it was my only option. The wind howled outside and the rain lashed against the windows. Inside, the air was damp and cold, but at least it was dry. I started a small fire in the dusty fireplace, hoping to warm up and wait out the storm. The eerie silence inside the cabin was unsettling, but I tried to ignore it. As the fire crackled, I explored the cabin, finding old furniture and personal items left behind. It was as if the previous occupants had left in a hurry. The feeling of being watched crept over me, making the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I chalked it up to my imagination, but the cabin's haunting atmosphere was hard to shake. The storm raged on, and I settled by the fire, trying to find some comfort in its warmth. Suddenly, I heard a noise from the back room. My heart skipped a beat, and I froze, listening intently. The sound came again, a faint rustling, followed by a low murmur. I grabbed a heavy metal poker from the fireplace, my hands trembling. As I approached the door, it creaked open, and a man stepped out, his eyes wild and desperate. He was holding a knife, and his presence was both chilling and unexpected. He demanded I stay quiet and do as he said. My mind raced as I tried to figure out who he was and what he wanted. The storm outside seemed to amplify the tension inside the cabin. The man was clearly on edge, his eyes darting around the room. He revealed he was a fugitive, hiding from the authorities, and had been living in the cabin for days. The realization that I was trapped with a dangerous criminal sent a wave of fear through me. The fugitive ordered me to sit by the fire while he paced the room, muttering to himself. His erratic behavior was terrifying, and I knew I had to find a way to escape. The knife in his hand glinted menacingly in the firelight, constant reminder of the danger I was in. I tried to stay calm, thinking of ways to overpower him. Cabin's eerie silence was only broken by the storm outside and his occasional mutterings. As the night wore on, the fugitive grew more agitated. He demanded food, but the cabin was empty. Frustrated, he turned his attention back to me, his eyes filled with a chilling determination. He seemed to be losing control, and I knew I had to act soon. My mind raced, considering my options. The metal poker was still within reach, and I decided to wait for the right moment to strike. The storm showed no signs of letting up, and the fugitive's paranoia grew. He accused me of planning to betray him, his grip on the knife tightening. The fear in my chest was almost unbearable, but I forced myself to stay calm. I needed to wait for the perfect moment to make my move. Firelight flickered, casting eerie shadows around the room. The cabin felt like a trap, the walls closing in on me. Finally, the moment came. The fugitive turned his back to me for just a second, distracted by a noise outside. I lunged forward, grabbing the poker and swinging it with all my might. The blow caught him off guard, and he dropped the knife, collapsing to the floor. My heart raced as I kicked the knife away and ran for the door. The storm was still raging, but the fear of staying in the cabin was greater than facing the element. I stumbled through the rain and wind, desperate to put as much distance between myself and the cabin as possible. The storm battered me, but the adrenaline kept me going. After what felt like hours, I found a ranger station and collapsed at the door. The rangers took me in, and I recounted my harrowing experience. They sent a team to the cabin, but the fugitive had already fled. The ordeal was over, but the haunting memory remained. Back home, I tried to process what had happened. Cabin, the fugitive, and the storm had left a lasting impact on me. Fear and adrenaline of that night were hard to forget. I shared my story with friends and family, each retelling a way to make sense of the terror. The experience had changed me, making me more cautious and aware of the dangers that can lurk in unexpected places. Cabin Nightmare was a chilling reminder of how quickly things can go wrong. Years later, the memory of that stormy night still sends shivers down my spine. The abandoned cabin, the fugitive, and the terrifying escape are etched into my mind. It's a story I share with caution, knowing the fear it can evoke. The experience remains a testament to the unpredictability of life and the chilling reality that danger can be just around the corner. My family's sprawling 50-acre property in Alaska was always picturesque. Something chilling lurked in the shadows. Late at night, the eerie silence would be broken by inexplicable voices echoing through the trees. We'd often huddle together, clutching each other in fear, as ghostly figures flitted past the windows. Living there, the haunting presence felt all too real. One autumn evening, as the wind howled outside, my sister Sarah claimed she heard whispers in her room. We all laughed it off, thinking she was dreaming, but the haunting voice was soon heard by everyone. The chilling realization set in. We were not alone. It was as if the property itself was alive, harboring eerie secrets that defied explanation. During one particularly frigid night, I ventured into the forest alone, seeking answers. I felt an icy grip on my shoulder, but when I turned, no one was there. The sensation of being watched was overwhelming. Shadows danced among the trees, creating an eerie atmosphere that made my skin crawl. I hurried back, heart pounding with fear. Not long after, my brother James encountered something even more terrifying. He saw a spectral figure standing by the old well, its eyes glowing with a haunting intensity. Frozen in fear, he couldn't move until the figure vanished into thin air. James swore it was a ghost, and his account left us all spooked and sleepless. Our grandmother, who had lived on the property her entire life, began to share stories of the skinwalkers. She recounted chilling tales of encounters with these supernatural beings that could take on human or animal form. According to her, they roamed our land, especially during the long dark night. Her stories added an eerie layer to our already haunted existence. One winter, as snow blanketed the ground, we heard what sounded like footsteps on the roof. The attic door creaked open, revealing a trail of icy footprints. We gathered around, our breaths fogging in the cold air, too scared to investigate further. The haunting presence felt closer than ever, and we could do nothing but wait for it to pass. Then there was the night when our loyal dog, Max, went missing. We searched everywhere, calling his name, but he never returned. A few days later, we found him shivering under the porch, eyes wide with fear. Max had always been brave. Something in the woods had terrified him. We knew then that whatever haunted us was powerful and malevolent. Our family gatherings became stories of survival. Uncle Bob shared his encounter with a ghostly figure that had followed him from the barn to the house, disappearing as soon as he reached the door. Aunt Linda recounted a night when she felt a hand tugging at her blankets, only to wake up and find herself alone. Each story was a piece of our haunting puzzle. One evening, my cousin Emily saw a shadowy figure standing at the edge of the forest, watching the house. She described its eyes as two glowing orbs that seemed to pierce through the night. The haunting vision left her shaken, and she refused to go near the forest after dark. Property's eerie grip tightened around us all. Determined to find peace, we sought help from a local shaman. He performed rituals, chanting and burning sage to cleanse the property. For a while, the haunting seemed to abate. Voices faded, and the ghostly figures retreated. We began to believe that we could live without fear, but the haunting never truly left us. Years later, I still hear the whispers in the wind and see shadows in my dreams. The property in Alaska remains a chilling reminder of our family's eerie encounters. Though we've moved away, the haunting memories linger, a part of our history that we can never escape. The land keeps its secrets, haunting us even from afar. The Alaskan wilderness has always been my playground, but one encounter left me haunted forever. I had heard the old legends of the Wendigo, but I never truly believed until that chilling night. It started as a typical camping trip, the small fire crackling and the eerie sounds of the forest enveloping us. Little did we know, something sinister lurked in the shadows. We were a group of 4, all seasoned campers, unafraid of the dark. But as the night wore on, an unsettling feeling crept over us. The usual forest sounds fell silent, replaced by an eerie, unnatural quiet. My friend Jake noticed it first, his eyes wide with fear. He whispered, "Do you feel that?" And we all nodded, sensing an unseen presence. Suddenly, the air grew colder and we heard a faint, haunting wail. It was unlike anything we had ever heard, a sound that seemed to come from another world. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as we huddled closer to the fire. The stories of the Wendigo flooded my mind, tales of a monstrous creature driven by insatiable hunger. We decided to take turns keeping watch. Fatigue soon set in. I was on my shift when I saw it, a tall, gaunt figure standing at the edge of the clearing. Its eyes glowed with a chilling, otherworldly light. Froze, unable to move or speak. The Wendigo's presence was overwhelming, haunting gaze piercing through the darkness. Blinked and it was gone. My heart pounded as I woke the others, trying to describe what I had seen. They were skeptical, but the fear in my voice convinced them to stay alert. We stoked the fire higher, its flickering flames casting eerie shadows around us. Every rustle of leaves, every crack of a branch, sent waves of terror through our camp. As dawn approached, we packed up, eager to leave the haunted forest behind. But our ordeal was far from over. On the hike back, we found strange tracks in the snow, large and clawed, leading in a circle around our campsite. It was as if the Wendigo had been watching us all night, waiting for the right moment to strike. We quickened our pace, the eerie feeling of being hunted driving us forward. Just when we thought we were safe, we heard that haunting wail again, closer this time. Panic set in, and we broke into a run, the forest blurring around us. Wendigo's presence was palpable, a chilling reminder that we were trespassing on its territory. We burst out of the woods and into the safety of our car, our breaths ragged and hearts racing. As we drove away, the haunting wail echoed behind us, chilling farewell from the creature, and it stalked up. We vowed never to return to that part of the forest, the memory of the Wendigo, ever etched in our mind. Weeks later, I still couldn't shake the haunting feeling. Nightmares of the Wendigo plagued my sleep. Gaunt figure and glowing eyes a constant presence. My friends and I rarely spoke of that night, but the unspoken bond of our shared terror kept us close. We knew we had encountered something beyond explanation, something truly eerie. Even now, when I venture into the wilderness, I can't help but glance over my shoulder, half expecting to see that haunting figure lurking in the shadows. The Wendigo may be a legend, but to us, it became terrifyingly real. The chilling experience taught me to respect the mysteries of the forest and the eerie creatures that call it home. Working as a park ranger in Congaree National Park, South Carolina, I thought I'd seen it all, but nothing prepared me for the chilling events that unfolded one fateful summer. The park's dense forests and eerie swamps held secrets that even the most seasoned rangers found unsettling. My colleague Tom and I often talked about the mysterious disappearances that plagued the area. It all started when a hiker went missing. We launched a search, but days of combing through the forest yielded nothing. The haunting feeling that something was watching us grew stronger with each passing day. One evening, while patrolling a particularly dense section of the park, we heard an eerie rustling in the bushes. Tom and I exchanged worried glances, our flashlights scanning the darkness. That's when we saw it, a large, shadowy figure lurking just beyond the tree line. It moved with an unnatural grace, its eyes glowing with a chilling intensity. We froze, our breaths catching in our throats. Creature disappeared into the underbrush, leaving us shaken and uneasy. We reported the sighting, but our superiors dismissed it as a bear or other wildlife. Deep down, we knew it was something more. Over the next few weeks, the disappearances continued. Each time we investigated, we felt the same eerie presence. One night, as Tom and I patrolled near the park's edge, we heard a blood-curdling scream. We raced towards the sound, our flashlights slicing through the darkness. We found nothing but a torn, blood-stained backpack. Chilling evidence of another victim. The park's atmosphere grew heavier, air thick with fear and tension. Tom and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being hunted. One evening, we decided to stake out the area where we'd seen the shadowy figure. We set up camp, our senses on high alert. Hours passed, the eerie silence broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves. Just as we began to relax, we heard a low growl. Our flashlights flicked on, illuminating the massive creature standing before us. It was larger than any animal I'd ever seen, its eyes burning with a haunting intelligence. Before we could react, the creature lunged at Tom, knocking him to the ground. I fired my gun, the shots echoing through the forest, but the creature vanished into the night. Tom was badly injured, and we had to get him to safety. As we carried him back to the ranger station, I couldn't shake the image of those glowing eyes. Tom's injuries were severe, and he succumbed to his wounds a few days later. His death left a haunting void in the park, a chilling reminder of the danger that lurked within its depths. The park authorities launched an investigation, but they found no trace of the creature. The official report listed Tom's death as a tragic accident, but those of us who were there knew the truth. The shadowy figure haunted my dreams, eerie presence a constant reminder of the night I lost my friend. I continued my work as a ranger, but the park's once familiar trails now felt menacing. Every rustle of leaves, every shadowy movement filled me with dread. I couldn't escape the feeling that the creature was still out there, watching and waiting. The eerie encounters had changed me, leaving a permanent mark on my soul. Years later, I still patrol Congaree National Park, always on the lookout for the shadowy figure. The haunting memories of that summer remain vivid, chilling reminder of the mysteries that lurk in the wilderness. I've learned to respect the park's secrets, knowing that some things are better left unexplored. The eerie events taught me to stay vigilant, always ready for the unexpected. Lost Lake in Minnesota was known for its serene beauty, but my visit there turned into a chilling nightmare. I had heard whispers about the Night Stalker, creature said to haunt the area, but I dismissed them as mere legends. That changed one eerie night when I decided to camp by the lake. Air was unusually still, and an unsettling quiet enveloped the surroundings. As I set up my tent, I felt a strange unease, but I brushed it off. First night was peaceful, but the second night took a terrifying turn. Around midnight, I heard rustling outside my tent. My heart pounded as I unzipped the flap, shining my flashlight into the darkness. The beam caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure darting into the woods, leaving me chilled to the bone. Determined to get a better look, grabbed my camera and ventured out. Forest was eerily silent, the only sound my own ragged breathing. Suddenly, I heard a low growl, sending shivers down my spine. I turned to see glowing eyes watching me from the shadows. The creature, the Night Stalker, stood tall and menacing, its presence both eerie and haunting. I stumbled back to my tent, heart racing. The next morning, I found strange footprints around my campsite, large and clawed. The realization that the Night Stalker was real and not just a legend filled me with dread. I debated leaving, but curiosity and a sense of adventure convinced me to stay one more night. It was a decision I would come to regret. As dusk fell, an eerie fog rolled in, blanketing the lake in a thick white mist. The air was thick with tension, and every rustle of leaves made me jump. I stayed in my tent, too scared to venture out. Around midnight, the haunting wails began echoing across the lake. They were unlike anything I had ever heard, a chilling reminder of the creature lurking nearby. Sleep was impossible, and I sat in my tent, clutching my flashlight, praying for dawn. The wails grew louder, closer, and then suddenly stopped. An eerie silence fell over the campsite, broken only by the sound of my own heartbeat. I dared not move, fearing that any sound would attract the Night Stalker. The hours dragged on, each one more terrifying than the last. Just before dawn, I heard the creature again, this time right outside my tent. The air was thick with fear as I listened to its heavy breathing, my heart pounding in my chest. It circled the tent, its shadowy figure looming large against the thin fabric. I held my breath, hoping it would go away. After what felt like an eternity, the creature moved on, disappearing into the forest. At first light, I packed up and left, my nerves frayed and my body trembling. As I drove away from Lost Lake, I glanced back one last time. Fog had lifted, revealing the serene beauty of the lake, but the haunting memories of the Night Stalker remained vivid in my mind. The creature was real, and it was still out there, waiting for its next victim. I shared my story with the locals, and to my surprise, many had their own chilling encounters with the Night Stalker. The legend was no longer just a tale. It was a terrifying reality. I vowed never to return to Lost Lake, the haunting experience a constant reminder of the horrors that lurk in the wilderness. Even now, the memories of that night send shivers down my spine. Eerie silence, the glowing eyes, the haunting wails, they're forever etched in my mind. Lost Lake may appear serene, but beneath its calm surface lies a dark, chilling secret. The Night Stalker is real, and its presence is a haunting reminder of the mysteries that nature still holds. Devil's Tower had always intrigued me, its looming presence both majestic and eerie. My friend Mike and I decided to explore the area, unaware of the chilling experience that awaited us. As we hiked through the rugged terrain, the air grew colder, and an eerie silence enveloped us. The towering monolith cast long shadows, creating an unsettling atmosphere. We set up camp near the base, the twilight casting an eerie glow over the landscape. That night, strange noises echoed through the darkness, a mix of whispers and rustling leaves. We laughed it off, attributing it to the wind, but a chilling feeling gnawed at the back of my mind. Something about the place felt hauntingly off. Second night, things took a terrifying turn. We were sitting by the fire when Mike suddenly tensed up, his eyes wide with fear. He pointed towards the tree line, where a grotesque, nearly human creature stood watching us. Its eyes glowed with a haunting intensity, and its twisted form sent shivers down my spine. The creature's presence was both eerie and terrifying. We scrambled to our feet, unsure whether to run or stand our ground. The creature moved closer, its movements unnatural and chilling. My heart pounded in my chest as we grabbed our flashlights, the beams revealing its grotesque features in stark detail. It let out a low growl, and we knew we had to get out of there. We bolted towards our tent, but the creature was fast, its eerie growls growing louder. Mike tripped and fell, and I turned back to help him. The creature was almost upon us, its eyes locked onto us with a terrifying focus. I pulled Mike to his feet, and we sprinted towards the car, the creature hot on our heels. Just as we reached the car, the creature lunged, its claws scraping against the metal as we dove inside. We slammed the doors shut, hearts racing, and sped away from Devil's Tower. Creature's haunting image lingered in the rearview mirror, chilling reminder of our narrow escape. We drove in silence, the adrenaline pumping through our veins. Back in town, we shared our story with the locals. They listened with wide eyes, counting similar eerie encounters. The creature was known as the Guardian, haunting presence that protected the tower from intruders. The legend was old, but our experience brought it terrifyingly to life. We vowed never to return, the memory of the creature forever etched in our minds. Months later, I still couldn't shake the haunting feeling. Nightmares of the grotesque creature plagued my sleep, its twisted form and glowing eyes a constant presence. Mike and I rarely spoke of that night, but the unspoken bond of our shared terror kept us close. We knew we had encountered something beyond explanation, something truly eerie. Even now, when I think of Devil's Tower, a chill runs down my spine. The haunting silence, the glowing eyes, the terrifying growls, they're forever etched in my mind. The tower may be a natural wonder, but to us, it became a place of terror. The Guardian is real, and its presence is a haunting reminder of the mysteries that nature still holds. The experience taught me to respect the unknown, be wary of the eerie and the unexplained. Devil's Tower, with its haunting beauty and chilling secrets, remains a place of awe and fear. The memory of that night will stay with me forever, a reminder that some mysteries are best left unexplored. My buddy Tim and I were always up for an adventure, so when we heard about the strange woods in Pennsylvania, we couldn't resist checking them out. As mechanics, we enjoyed exploring unfamiliar places on our days off, and this eerie forest seemed like the perfect challenge. We packed our gear and set off early one Saturday morning, eager to uncover whatever secrets the woods held. The deeper we ventured, the quieter it became. The usual sounds of nature were replaced by an eerie silence that sent chills down my spine. The trees seemed to close in around us, their twisted branches creating haunting shadows that danced in the dim light. Tim and I exchanged uneasy glances, pushed forward, curiosity driving us deeper into the unknown. After a couple of hours, we stumbled upon a clearing with an old, abandoned cabin. The place had an eerie vibe, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood up as we approached. We decided to take a look inside, hoping to find some clue about its history. The door creaked open, revealing a room filled with dust and decay. It was as if time had stopped in this haunting place. As we explored the cabin, we heard a noise outside. We froze, listening intently. The sound was faint at first, like someone whispering in the wind. Then it grew louder, more distinct. Tim and I glanced at each other, our hearts pounding. We cautiously stepped outside, scanning the woods for any sign of movement. That's when we saw it, a mysterious figure standing at the edge of the clearing. The figure was cloaked in shadow, its features obscured by the darkness. It stood still, watching us with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. Called out, but there was no response. The air grew colder, and an eerie silence settled over the clearing. Suddenly, the figure turned and disappeared into the woods. Tim and I were left standing there, our minds racing with questions and fear. We debated whether to follow the figure, but our curiosity got the better of us. We set off in the direction it had gone, our senses on high alert. The woods seemed to grow darker and more menacing with each step. As we pushed through the underbrush, we stumbled upon something even more chilling. A makeshift grave marked by a crude wooden cross. The sight of the grave stopped us in our tracks. The ground around it was disturbed, as if something or someone had been recently buried there. A sense of dread washed over me, and I could tell Tim felt it too. We exchanged worried glances, realizing we might be in over our heads. The eerie silence of the woods seemed to press in on us, amplifying our fear. Just as we were about to turn back, we heard the whispering again. It seemed to come from all around us, growing louder and more urgent. The trees seemed to sway with the sound, their branches reaching out like ghostly arms. Panic set in, and we started to run, footsteps echoing through the haunting forest. The whispering followed us, a chilling reminder that we were not alone. We finally burst out of the woods, gasping for breath. The sunlight felt warm and reassuring, a stark contrast to the cold, eerie darkness we had just escaped. We made our way back to the car in silence, our minds reeling from the experience. As we drove away, I glanced back at the woods, their shadowy depths hiding secrets we would never fully understand. Memory of that day stayed with me, a haunting reminder of the strange and eerie woods in Pennsylvania. Tim and I vowed never to return, the chilling encounters we faced too much to bear. Even now, the thought of those woods sends shivers down my spine. The mysterious figure, the makeshift grave, and the haunting whispering, all of it remains a dark and eerie chapter in our lives. My school trip to Algonquin Provincial Park was supposed to be a fun escape, but it turned into a chilling nightmare I'll never forget. We arrived on a crisp autumn afternoon, forest ablaze with vibrant colors. My friends and I were excited about the adventure, unaware of the eerie events that would soon unfold. We settled into our cabins, the air filled with laughter and anticipation. That evening, we gathered around the campfire, listening to our teacher's stories. The atmosphere was cozy until he mentioned the legend of the hermit, who lived deep in the woods. According to him, the hermit was a reclusive figure, known to wander the forest at night. A hush fell over the group as the story took a darker turn. The thought of a mysterious figure lurking nearby sent shivers down my spine. After the campfire, we headed back to our cabins, trying to shake off the eerie feeling. As we got ready for bed, the forest outside seemed to come alive with strange noises. I tried to ignore it, chalking it up to my imagination. But as the night wore on, the sounds grew louder, more distinct. It was as if someone or something was moving through the trees. I awoke in the middle of the night to the sound of footsteps outside the cabin. My heart raced as I listened. Footsteps growing closer. The thought of the hermit flashed through my mind, filling me with terror. I lay still, barely breathing, hoping the sounds would go away. But they didn't. Instead, they circled the cabin, creating a chilling symphony of fear. Footsteps stopped abruptly, and an eerie silence fell. I mustered the courage to peek out the window, but saw nothing. The darkness outside seemed to swallow everything, hiding whatever or whoever was out there. I crawled back into bed, pulling the covers up to my chin, trying to calm my racing heart. Sleep was impossible. Every sound sent waves of terror through me. The next morning, I shared my experience with my friends. They laughed it off, calling me paranoid. But I knew what I had heard. Fear lingered as we went about our activities, the forest's eerie presence ever looming. That night, the teacher suggested a night hike, chance to face our fears. Reluctantly, we agreed, hoping it would put our minds at ease. The hike started off uneventfully, forest bathed in the glow of our flashlights. But as we ventured deeper, an eerie feeling settled over us. The trees seemed to close in, their branches casting haunting shadows. Suddenly, a loud rustling in the bushes made us all freeze. Our flashlights swung toward the sound, but there was nothing there. The fear in the group was palpable. As we continued, the whispering began. Faint at first, like the wind through the leaves, but growing louder, more urgent. My heart pounded as I strained to hear. The whispers seemed to come from all around us, filling the air with an eerie sense of dread. We quickened our pace, eager to return to the safety of the cabins. The whispers followed us, haunting reminder of the legend. Back at the cabin, the fear was tangible. We huddled together, trying to make sense of what we had experienced. The night was long, filled with strange noises and restless sleep. The footsteps returned, circling the cabin like a predator stalking its prey. The thought of the hermit became all too real, a chilling figure haunting our dreams. The rest of the trip passed in a blur of fear and unease. The forest, once beautiful and inviting, now felt like a menacing presence. We stuck close together, the legend of the hermit casting a shadow over our adventure. When it was finally time to leave, we couldn't pack up fast enough. The relief of stepping onto the bus was overwhelming. Even now, the memory of that trip haunts me. Eerie footsteps, the haunting whispers, and the thought of the hermit lurking in the woods. All of it remains a chilling reminder of the dark secrets that can hide in even the most beautiful places. Algonquin Provincial Park, with its stunning landscapes, holds a part of my fear that will never fade away. As a journalist, I've covered many strange stories, but nothing prepared me for the chilling encounter with a skinwalker on the Navajo reservation. I was investigating a series of livestock mutilations that had left the community on edge. The desert air was dry and hot, the landscape vast and eerily silent. I set up camp, ready to dig into the mystery. The locals were hesitant to speak, their fear palpable. They whispered about the skinwalker, creature of Navajo legend known for its grotesque appearance and malevolent intent. Despite their warnings, I pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. My nights were spent listening to the eerie howls of coyotes, wondering if they were something more sinister. One night, I ventured out alone, hoping to find evidence of the creature. The moon cast an eerie glow over the desert, the shadows stretching long and haunting. I stumbled upon a mutilated calf, its remains a chilling sight. As I documented the scene, I heard a rustling behind me. My heart raced as I turned, flashlight in hand, to face the darkness. What I saw froze me in place. A grotesque figure emerged from the shadows, its body twisted and misshapen. Its eyes glowed with a haunting intensity, and a low growl emanated from its throat. I recognized it immediately. The skinwalker. Fear gripped me as the creature moved closer, its movements fluid and unnatural. I backed away slowly, my mind racing for an escape plan. The skinwalker lunged, and I bolted, adrenaline pumping through my veins. The desert landscape blurred as I ran, the creature's footsteps pounding behind me. I could feel its hot breath on my neck, chilling reminder of the danger I was in. My camp was still a distance away, and I knew I had to keep moving if I wanted to survive. I reached the edge of my camp, my legs burning from the effort. I dove into my tent, scrambling for my camera and recorder. The creature's growls grew louder, more menacing. I managed to capture a few seconds of footage before the skinwalker tore through the tent, its claws slashing at the fabric. I grabbed a flare, igniting it and waving it wildly. The bright light seemed to repel the creature, giving me a moment to escape. I stumbled into my truck, heart pounding, and sped away from the camp. The creature's haunting image lingered in my mind, a terrifying reminder of my close call. As I drove through the night, I replayed the encounter in my head. Fear still fresh and raw. I knew I had to warn the others, to share the evidence I had gathered. Back in the safety of the town, I showed the locals my footage. Their faces paled as they watched, the fear in their eyes mirroring my own. The skinwalker was no longer just a legend, it was a chilling reality. The community banded together, taking precautions to protect themselves from the creature's malevolent presence. The experience haunted me long after I left the reservation. Nightmares of the skinwalker plagued my sleep, its grotesque form and glowing eyes a constant presence. I struggled to shake the fear. The memory of its pursuit etched deeply into my mind. The desert, once a place of beauty and mystery, had become a haunting reminder of the supernatural dangers that lurked within. I continued my work as a journalist, but the encounter changed me. I approached each news story with a heightened sense of caution, aware that the world held more chilling secrets than I had ever imagined. The skinwalker remained a dark chapter in my career, a story that I would never fully leave behind. Even now, the memory sends shivers down my spine. The eerie howls of the desert, the haunting glow of the skinwalker's eyes, and the terror of that night, they're all part of a story that is both unbelievable and all too real. The Navajo Reservation, with its rich history and legends, holds a piece of my fear that will never fade away. Living in the Southwest, I've always been fascinated by Navajo folklore, especially the chilling tales of skinwalker. These shape-shifting witches were said to haunt the desert, their presence bringing an eerie silence to the land. My curiosity led me to a remote area known for strange rituals and sighting. It was here that I had my first eerie encounter, one that would haunt me forever. One evening, I ventured deep into the desert with a friend, searching for evidence of these legends. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows, an eerie stillness settled over the landscape. We stumbled upon a circle of stones, a site rumored to be used for dark rituals. The air felt thick with unseen energy, and a chill ran down my spine. As night fell, we built a small fire and sat in its flickering light, sharing stories. Suddenly, we heard a low, haunting howl in the distance. It was unlike any animal I had ever heard. The sound grew louder, closer, and I felt a deep, primal fear. My friend and I exchanged worried glances, the chilling realization dawning on us. We were not alone. Moments later, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, moving with an unnatural grace. Its eyes glowed with a haunting intensity, sending shivers down my spine. The figure seemed to change shape, becoming more grotesque with each step. We were frozen with fear, unable to move as the skinwalker approached. The air was thick with tension, and my heart pounded in my chest. Just as the creature was about to reach us, it vanished into the night, leaving us in an eerie silence. We packed up quickly, our nerves frayed, and decided to leave the desert. But as we drove away, the feeling of being watched never left. Skinwalker's presence lingered, a chilling reminder of the supernatural forces at play. Over the next few weeks, strange occurrences plagued me. I heard whispers in the wind, saw shadows moving in the corner of my eye, and felt an unsettling presence at night. Sleep became impossible as nightmares of the skinwalker haunted my dreams. The once familiar desert now felt like a place of danger and dread, its haunting beauty overshadowed by fear. Determined to find answers, I returned to the desert with a Navajo guide. He performed a cleansing ritual, chanting and burning sage to protect us from the skinwalker's malevolent influence. The eerie feeling lifted slightly, but the memory of that night remained vivid. My guide shared more stories of skinwalkers, their power and danger, and I realized the depth of the legends. One night, while driving through the desert, I saw the skinwalker again. It stood by the road, its form shifting and grotesque. My heart raced as I sped past, unwilling to stop or look back. The encounter reaffirmed my belief in the supernatural, chilling reminder of the unseen forces that exist in the world. The desert, with its eerie silence, held many secrets. My fascination with skinwalkers turned into a deep respect for the Navajo culture and their warning. I continued to explore the desert, but always with caution, never venturing too far from safety. The chilling experiences taught me to respect the unknown, be wary of the eerie and unexplained. The desert, once a place of curiosity, became a haunting reminder of the supernatural. Years later, the memory of the skinwalker still haunts me. The eerie howls, the haunting eyes, and the sense of being watched are forever etched in my mind. The desert holds a part of my fear that will never fade, a reminder of the chilling encounter with a creature from legend. The stories of skinwalkers are more than just tales. They're a warning, a glimpse into a world beyond our understanding. Exploring abandoned places had always been a hobby of mine, so when my friend Jake suggested we check out an old mine at St. Mary's Glacier in Colorado, I was all in. The place was rumored to be haunted. That only added to the thrill. We packed our gear and headed out early one Saturday, eager for an adventure. The drive up was beautiful, the air crisp and the scenery breathtaking. The entrance to the mine was hidden among the trees, an eerie black hole in the side of the mountain. We stepped inside, the temperature dropping instantly. Our flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing rusted equipment and crumbling walls. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and something else, something unsettling. Couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Deeper into the mine, the atmosphere grew more oppressive. Strange noises echoed off the walls, faint whispers that sent chills down my spine. Jake and I joked about ghosts, but our laughter was forced. The deeper we went, the stronger the feeling of dread became. We reached a large cavern and decided to take a break. As we sat, I noticed a dark figure in the corner of my eye. Before I could react, the figure lunged at Jake. It was a grotesque creature, almost human, but with twisted features and glowing eyes. Jake screamed as it clawed at him, drawing blood. I grabbed a rock and threw it, hitting the creature and causing it to retreat. We scrambled to our feet, adrenaline pumping, and bolted for the entrance. Creature's haunting growls echoed behind us. We burst out into the sunlight, gasping for breath. Jake was bleeding badly, his shirt torn and his face pale. We raced to the nearest town and got him to a hospital. The doctors were baffled by his injuries, unable to explain the deep, claw-like gashes. Jake was shaken, his eyes haunted by the memory of the creature. He urged me to warn others about the mine. Determined to uncover the truth, I gathered a group of friends and returned to the mine a few weeks later. Armed with better equipment and a sense of purpose, we ventured back into the darkness. The mine was eerily silent, the air heavy with anticipation. We reached the cavern where the attack had occurred, our flashlights revealing bloodstains on the ground. Suddenly, the creature appeared again, more menacing than before. We fought it off, barely escaping with our lives. The experience left us all shaken, but it confirmed that the mine was truly haunted by something sinister. We reported our encounter to the local authorities, but they were skeptical, dismissing our story as a prank. Frustrated but undeterred, we decided to form a group dedicated to investigating and hunting the creature. Our efforts attracted attention, and soon we had a team of experienced hunters and paranormal investigators. We returned to the mine repeatedly, each time learning more about the creature and its habits. The hauntings grew more intense, the creature more aggressive. We realized we were dealing with something beyond our understanding, something that defied the laws of nature. Despite the danger, we continued our mission, driven by a desire to protect others from the mine's horrors. Creature remained elusive, its haunting presence a constant challenge. We lost members along the way, their sacrifices a testament to the mine's eerie grip. Each encounter left us more determined, more resolved to uncover the truth and end the haunting. Years later, the mine remains a place of fear and mystery. Our group has grown, our methods more sophisticated, but the creature still evades us. The haunting memories of our encounters linger, a chilling reminder of the mine's dark secrets. Mary's Glacier, with its breathtaking beauty, hides a sinister presence that continues to challenge and haunt us. The experience has changed me, deepened my respect for the unknown. The mine's haunting adventure is a story I share with caution, a tale of terror that still sends shivers down my spine. The creature's grotesque form, the eerie whispers, and the constant sense of being watched are forever etched in my mind. The haunted mine at St. Mary's Glacier is a place I'll never forget. Being a park ranger has always been my dream job, especially in the lush forests of the Pacific Northwest. As a member of the Salish tribe, I felt a deep connection to the land and its mystery. But one fateful summer, that connection led me to a chilling discovery that would haunt me forever. It started with reports of strange disappearances in the woods, campers and hikers who vanished without a trace. Determined to get to the bottom of it, I patrolled the area more frequently, often venturing deep into the forest alone. The woods were beautiful, but there was an eerie undertone, a sense that something was watching. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I heard an unsettling noise, a low growl that sent shivers down my spine. I turned and saw a pair of glowing eyes staring at me from the darkness. The creature emerged slowly, its form grotesque and menacing. It was unlike anything I had ever seen, a blend of human and beast with twisted features and a haunting presence. My heart raced as it approached, and I instinctively backed away. The air was thick with tension, and I knew I had to act quickly. I grabbed my radio and called for backup, my voice shaking. When my colleagues arrived, the creature had vanished, leaving only eerie silence. We searched the area but found no trace of it. Forests seemed to close in around us, its shadows hiding untold secrets. The locals spoke of ancient legends, stories of creatures that guarded the land. I couldn't help but wonder if we had stumbled upon one of these haunting guardians. The disappearances continued, and the community grew more fearful. We held meetings, discussing strategies to protect our people and visitors. One night, an elder shared a chilling tale of a creature known as the Shadow Walker, a being that lured people into the woods, never to be seen again. The description matched what I had encountered, and the eerie realization set in that we were dealing with something supernatural. Determined to protect my community, I formed a team of rangers and volunteers to patrol the forest. We armed ourselves with flashlights and radios, ready to confront the creature. The nights were long and filled with tension, every rustle of leaves and snap of a twig putting us on edge. The haunting presence of the Shadow Walker was always near, a constant reminder of the danger we faced. One night, while on patrol, we heard the growl again. The creature appeared, its eyes glowing with a chilling intensity. We surrounded it, shining our flashlights to keep it at bay. It moved with an eerie grace, seemingly unfazed by our presence. Suddenly, it lunged at one of the volunteers, knocking him to the ground. We fought back, using everything we had to drive it away. The creature retreated into the darkness, but the encounter left us shaken. The volunteer was injured but alive, eyes wide with fear. We realized that we couldn't fight this alone. We needed the wisdom of our elders and the power of our traditions. We held a ceremony, invoking the spirits to protect us and seeking guidance on how to deal with the Shadow Walk. The elders performed a cleansing ritual, chanting and burning sage to purify the forest. The air felt lighter, the oppressive presence lifting slightly. But the memory of the creature remained vivid, a chilling reminder of the dangers lurking in the woods. We continued our patrols, now with a renewed sense of purpose and unity. Months passed, and the disappearances slowed. The Shadow Walker's presence was still felt, but it seemed to retreat deeper into the forest. Community grew more confident, reclaiming the woods for themselves. The experience had brought us closer, strengthening our bonds and our resolve to protect each other. The memory of the Shadow Walker still haunts me, a reminder of the supernatural forces that exist in our world. The forest, once a place of peace and beauty, now holds a darker, eerie undertone. Creature's grotesque form and haunting eyes are etched in my mind, a chilling tale I share with caution. Being a park ranger is still my dream job, but now it comes with a deep respect for the unknown. Working as a park ranger in the Okanogan-Wenatchee National Forest, I've seen my share of strange things, but nothing compares to the chilling encounter I had one autumn evening. While patrolling a remote area, I stumbled upon an improvised campsite. It looked recently abandoned, campfire still smoldering. The eerie silence around the site sent shivers down my spine, and I knew something was off. As I inspected the campsite, I found personal belongings scattered about. Clothes, a backpack, and food supply. It was as if the inhabitants had left in a hurry. A sense of dread washed over me as I noticed claw marks on the trees surrounding the site. I had heard stories from the locals about a creature stalking the forest, but I had never taken them seriously, until now. Suddenly, I heard rustling in the bushes nearby. My heart raced as I turned, flashlight in hand, to see who or what was there. A man emerged, his face pale and eyes wide with fear. He introduced himself as Tom, a hiker who had been part of a group that stayed at the campsite. His voice trembled as he recounted their terrifying experience, describing a creature that had stalked them for days. According to Tom, the creature was tall and humanoid, with glowing eyes and an eerie, otherworldly presence. It had followed them, watching from the shadows, before finally attacking their camp one night. The group had fled in panic, leaving everything behind. Tom had returned to retrieve their belongings, but was too afraid to do it alone. His story was both chilling and compelling, and I knew I had to investigate further. Tom and I decided to explore the area together, hoping to find clues about the creature's origin. As we ventured deeper into the forest, the atmosphere grew more oppressive. The trees seemed to close in around us, their branches casting haunting shadows. We found more claw marks and strange symbols carved into the bark, adding to the eerie feeling that we were being watched. We reached a clearing where the air felt colder, almost unnaturally so. The ground was littered with animal bones, and the trees bore more of those strange carving. Tom pointed out a cave entrance hidden among the rocks. He believed it was the creature's lair. My instincts screamed to turn back. Curiosity and duty pushed me forward. We cautiously approached the cave, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Inside, the cave was damp and filled with an unsettling stench. The walls were covered in claw marks, and there were more bones scattered around. Suddenly, we heard a low growl, echoing off the walls. My heart pounded as we realized we were not alone. The creature emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing with a chilling intensity. It was more terrifying than I had imagined, a grotesque blend of human and beast. Tom and I backed away slowly, trying to avoid provoking it. The creature lunged and we bolted, running for our lives. The forest blurred around us as we raced back to the campsite. The creature's growls and heavy footsteps echoed behind us, a haunting reminder of the danger we faced. We reached the site and grabbed what we could, then continued running until we were safely out of the forest. Back at the ranger station, we reported our encounter to the authorities. They were skeptical, but promised to investigate. The experience left us both shaken, the memory of the creature's haunting eyes etched in our minds. Tom decided to leave the area for good, but I stayed, determined to protect the forest and its visitors from whatever lurked within. The encounter changed me, deepening my respect for the forest and its secret. I continued my patrols with a heightened sense of caution, always aware of the eerie presence that might be watching. The story of the creature spread, attracting more curious hikers and researchers, but I always warned them of the dangers. The Okanogan-Wenatchee National Forest, with its breathtaking beauty, held a dark, chilling secret. Even now, I can't shake the memory of that night. Creature's grotesque form, eerie symbols, and the chilling growls are forever etched in my mind. The forest remains a place of mystery and fear, haunting reminder of the unknown forces that exist within our world. My duty as a ranger is clear, but I know that some secrets are best left undiscovered. Working as a night watchman at a storage facility might seem like an easy gig, but one chilling encounter changed my perspective forever. It was a quiet night, the kind where nothing happens, and I was making my rounds with a flashlight in hand. The eerie silence was comforting, but it didn't last. As I approached the far end of the lot, I noticed something strange, a shadow moving between the storage units. My heart skipped a beat as I shone my flashlight towards the shadow, revealing a grotesque creature. Its eyes glowed with a haunting intensity, and its form was barely human. The creature let out a low growl, sending shivers down my spine. I took a step back, trying to steady my nerves. The creature advanced, moving with an eerie grace that defied explanation. Instinctively, I reached for my radio to call for backup, but the creature lunged at me, knocking it out of my hand. Panic set in as I stumbled back, desperately trying to put distance between us. The creature's grotesque face and twisted limbs were like something out of a nightmare. I could feel its hot breath on my neck, a chilling reminder of the danger I was in. I ran, my flashlight bouncing wildly in the dark. The creature's heavy footsteps echoed behind me, growing louder with each passing second. I ducked between storage units, hoping to lose it in the maze of metal doors and concrete. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could barely catch my breath. The eerie silence was replaced by the creature's menacing growls. Suddenly, I tripped over a loose piece of concrete and fell hard. The creature was upon me in an instant, claws slashing through the air. I managed to roll out of the way just in time, my flashlight skittering across the ground. In the dim light, I saw the creature's face clearly for the first time. Its eyes were empty voids, filled with a haunting darkness that sent a chill through my bones. Desperation fueled my movements as I scrambled to my feet. I grabbed a nearby metal rod, swinging it wildly to keep the creature at bay. The creature hissed, momentarily retreating, but I knew it wouldn't give up easily. I backed away slowly, keeping the rod between us, my mind racing for a plan. The creature's glowing eyes followed my every move, a chilling reminder of the danger I faced. I spotted the security office in the distance, its lights a beacon of hope. Summoning all my courage, I made a break for it, the creature hot on my heels. I burst through the door, slamming it shut behind me. I locked it and grabbed the phone to call the police. My hands trembled as I explained the situation, my voice shaking with fear. The creature pounded on the door, its growls growing louder. Minutes felt like hours as I waited for the police to arrive. The creature's relentless assault on the door was a haunting reminder of its strength and determination. Finally, the sound of sirens filled the air, and I breathed a sigh of relief. The police burst in, guns drawn, but the creature was gone. All that remained were the deep gouges in the door and the chilling memory of its glowing eyes. The police took my statement, but there was little they could do without evidence. They searched the area but found no trace of the creature. My encounter was dismissed as a figment of my imagination, product of the late-night shift. But I knew what I had seen, and the fear remained. The storage facility, once a place of mundane security checks, had become a site of terror. I continued to work there, but I was never the same. Every shadow, every strange noise filled me with dread. The memory of the creature haunted my nights, its grotesque form and glowing eyes forever etched in my mind. I warned my colleagues. Few took me seriously. The night watchman's terror became a story told in hushed tones, a chilling reminder of the unknown dangers that lurk in the dark. Years later, the memory still sends shivers down my spine. The creature's haunting presence, the desperate chase, and the relentless pounding on the door, forever ingrained in my mind. The storage facility stands as a reminder of that night, a place where the line between reality and nightmare blurred. My duty as a night watchman remains, but now I'm always on guard, ready for the next encounter with the unknown. I had always been intrigued by conspiracy theories, but nothing could have prepared me for what I uncovered in a remote desert town. As an investigator, I'd heard whispers of secret government experiments taking place far from prying eyes. My curiosity led me to this eerie location, where the haunting stillness of the desert seemed to guard its secrets fiercely. Wasn't long before I stumbled upon an abandoned facility, hidden from the world. The entrance was half buried in sand, its door hanging ajar with a chilling creak. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of chemicals and decay. Old equipment lay scattered around, covered in dust, and the walls were lined with strange symbols that sent shivers down my spine. I took out my camera, documenting everything I could. The deeper I went, the more sinister the place felt. My heart raced as I realized I wasn't alone. I heard footsteps echoing through the empty halls, and my pulse quickened. I ducked into a nearby room, hiding behind an old desk. Peering out, I saw shadowy figures moving methodically through the facility. They were dressed in black, their faces obscured by masks. Fear gripped me as I realized these must be the agents sent to protect the secret experiments. The situation was growing more dangerous by the second. Determined to uncover the truth, I crept through the facility, staying out of sight. In one of the rooms, I found files detailing horrific experiments on humans and animals. The descriptions were chilling, and the images were even worse. I knew I had to get this information out to the world. My hands trembled as I photographed the documents, each flash of the camera feeling like a beacon in the dark. The weight of what I had discovered was overwhelming. As I made my way to the exit, the agents' footsteps grew louder. They were closing in, and I had to think fast. I found an old ventilation shaft and squeezed inside, crawling through the narrow space. My heart pounded in my ears, the sound of the agents searching for me echoing through the metal ducts. I emerged outside, cool night air a stark contrast to the stifling facility. But I wasn't safe yet. The agents were still on my trail. I ran to my car, starting the engine with trembling hands. As I sped away, I saw headlights in my rearview mirror. They were following me. Panic surged through me, but I kept my focus on the road. I had to get to a place where I could broadcast the information I'd gathered. The eerie desert landscape blurred past, and I prayed I could outpace my pursuers. Every minute felt like an eternity, chilling thought of capture ever present. I reached a small town with a public library that had an internet connection. I hurried inside, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I uploaded the photos and documents to multiple online platforms, ensuring the truth would be seen. Feeling of urgency was overwhelming, and I glanced nervously out the window, expecting the agents to burst in at any moment. The knowledge that I was exposing something so sinister kept me going. With the information safely online, I left the library, hoping to disappear before the agents caught up. I drove through the night, changing directions frequently to lose any potential tail. The fear of being found kept me on edge, but I knew I'd done the right thing. The haunting images and descriptions from the facility were now out in the open, and the world would know the truth about the secret experiment. My mission was complete. The danger was far from over. I found refuge in a quiet town far from the desert. The eerie sense of being watched never left me. I took on a new identity, blending into the background, always looking over my shoulder. The chilling memory of the facility and the agents haunted my dreams, constant reminder of what I had uncovered. I stayed in contact with a few trusted allies, ensuring the information continued to spread and gain traction. Years passed, and the story of the secret experiments became a well-known conspiracy, sparking outrage and investigation. The haunting truth of what had happened in that remote desert town could no longer be ignored. I remained in the shadows, knowing my safety depended on my anonymity. The eerie silence of the desert had been broken, and the world was finally aware of the chilling reality hidden within its sand. The weather forecast had promised clear skies, so I set out for a hike in the mountain, eager to enjoy the pristine wilderness. But as the day progressed, the sky darkened, and an unexpected blizzard descended upon me. The wind howled, and the snow fell thick and fast, erasing the trail. Panic set in as I realized I was lost, cold seeping into my bones. Desperately, I searched for shelter, my footsteps muffled by the eerie silence of the snowstorm. After what felt like hours, I stumbled upon a small, dilapidated cabin. It stood alone in the wilderness, its windows dark and foreboding. With no other options, I pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The air was musty and cold, and an eerie feeling washed over me. The place seemed abandoned, but there was something unsettling about it. I quickly gathered some old logs and managed to start a fire, hoping to ward off the chill and the growing sense of dread. As the fire crackled, I explored the cabin, finding it sparsely furnished and filled with a haunting silence. The walls were adorned with strange, faded photographs that seemed to watch me. Every creak and groan of the old wood set my nerves on edge. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone, that an unseen presence was observing my every move. The blizzard raged outside, making it impossible to leave. I was trapped in this eerie place, my only company the haunting memories of those who had come before. Night fell, and the cabin grew colder despite the fire. As I lay on the old, lumpy bed, I heard faint whispers, like distant voices carried on the wind. My heart pounded, and I strained to listen, but the words were indistinguishable. The sense of being watched intensified. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. Sleep was elusive, and I spent the night in a state of restless vigilance, every shadow and sound amplifying my fear. In the dim light of dawn, I noticed something strange about one of the photographs. It showed a group of people standing in front of the cabin, but their eyes seemed to follow me, their expressions eerily lifelike. I shuddered and turned away, trying to shake off the unsettling feeling. As I prepared to leave, the whispers returned, louder and more insistent. The cabin seemed to come alive with eerie energy, and I knew I had to escape, or it consumed me. I bundled up and stepped out into the blizzard, cold biting into my skin. The storm had lessened, but visibility was still poor. I tried to retrace my steps, but the snow had covered all traces of my path. Panic set in as I wandered aimlessly, the eerie presence of the cabin lingering in my mind. The wilderness felt more menacing, every tree and rock a potential hiding place for the unseen watcher. I pushed on, determined to find my way back to safety. Hours passed, and I was exhausted, my limbs heavy with fatigue. Just when I thought I couldn't go any further, I saw a figure in the distance. Relief flooded through me as I realized it was a search and rescue team. They had been looking for me since the blizzard began. I stumbled towards them, my voice hoarse from shouting. The sight of their bright jackets and the sound of their voices was a welcome contrast to the eerie silence of the cabin. Back at the ranger station, I told my story, but my rescuers dismissed the eerie occurrences as the product of my imagination and the stress of the blizzard. They assured me the cabin had been abandoned for years, with no record of anything unusual. But the haunting feeling remained, a chilling reminder of my night in the wilderness. I couldn't shake the sense that something otherworldly had been watching me, something that defied logical explanation. As I warmed up by the fire, I resolved never to venture into the mountains alone again. The wilderness, once a place of adventure and beauty, now held a darker, more sinister aspect. The haunting memories of the cabin and its eerie whispers stayed with me, a reminder of the thin line between the natural and the supernatural. The experience had left me shaken, but it also deepened my respect for the untamed wilds and the mysteries they held. Years later, I still think about that night whenever a blizzard rolls in. The eerie presence, the chilling whispers, and the haunting photographs are etched into my memory. The wilderness has a way of revealing its secrets in the most unexpected ways, and my encounter with the cabin remains a story I share with caution. It's a reminder that some places are best left undisturbed, their mysteries too chilling to confront head-on. It was late, and the desolate stretch of highway seemed endless. My car had broken down, and I had no choice but to hitchhike. After what felt like an eternity, a trucker finally pulled over. His rig was massive, and his demeanor was rough, but I was desperate. I climbed into the cab, thanking him for the ride. The trucker, with his gruff voice and unsettling grin, introduced himself as Jake. The atmosphere was immediately chilling, but I brushed it off, eager to get to safety. As we drove, the conversation turned odd. Jake's stories of the road were filled with eerie details and hints of danger. He spoke of accidents and disappearances, his eyes gleaming with a strange excitement. My unease grew, but I forced myself to stay calm. The night outside was pitch black, the only light coming from the truck's headlights, slicing through the darkness. The highway seemed to stretch on forever. Haunting reminder of how isolated we were. I noticed Jake's grip on the wheel tightening, his knuckles white. He began talking about a dangerous hitchhiker who had been causing trouble along this route. The way he described the hitchhiker was eerie, as if he relished the fear it invoked. My heart pounded as I realized I might have made a grave mistake. I glanced at the door handle, calculating the risks of jumping out. The truck's speed made it a daunting prospect, but the chilling stories made staying even more terrifying. Jake's tone grew darker, and his eyes seemed to bore into me. He mentioned how easy it was for someone to disappear on these lonely roads. The eerie atmosphere was suffocating, and I knew I had to find a way out. Suddenly, the truck slowed down, and Jake pulled over, claiming he needed to check something in the back. The moment he stepped out, I knew this was my chance. My heart raced as I quietly unbuckled my seatbelt and prepared to run. I slipped out of the cab, the cold night air hitting me like a slap. I darted into the darkness, hoping Jake wouldn't notice my escape. The eerie silence of the night was broken only by the crunch of gravel under my boots. I ran as fast as I could, the fear of being caught propelling me forward. The highway stretched out before me, a chilling path to potential safety. Behind me, I heard Jake's angry shouts, but I didn't dare look back. The darkness was disorienting, and my breath came in ragged gasps. I spotted a faint light in the distance. A gas station or rest stop, perhaps. Desperation drove me on, my legs aching with each step. The eerie stillness of the night was punctuated by the occasional passing car, none of which stopped. Finally, I reached the light, collapsing against the door of a small diner. The warmth and noise inside were a stark contrast to the chilling cold and silence outside. Inside, I told the staff what had happened. They called the police, who arrived quickly. As I sat in the diner, sipping hot coffee, the reality of my narrow escape began to sink in. The officers took my statement, their serious expressions only adding to the gravity of the situation. They assured me they would find Jake. Fear lingered. Eerie experience had left a lasting impression, a chilling reminder of the dangers that can lurk on the open road. The police escorted me home, their presence a comforting barrier against the lingering fear. I couldn't shake the haunting memories of the ride with Jake. His sinister stories and the palpable danger had etched themselves into my mind. The open road, once a symbol of freedom and adventure, now held a darker, more sinister meaning. I vowed never to hitchhike again. The chilling encounter a lesson I would never forget. Back home, I struggled to return to normal life. The eerie events of that night replayed in my mind, each detail more haunting than the last. Friends and family listened in disbelief as I recounted the story, their concern evident. Chilling experience had changed me, making me more cautious and aware of the potential dangers around me. It was a story I shared with a mix of fear and relief, a cautionary tale of the risks of trusting strangers. Years later, the memory of that night still sends shivers down my spine. The dangerous hitchhiker encounter remains a haunting chapter in my life, a constant reminder of how quickly things can go wrong. The eerie tales and the palpable fear are etched into my memory, a lesson in vigilance and caution. It's a story that has shaped my perception of the world, making me more careful and aware of the shadows that can lurk just out of sight. As a geologist, I had explored many strange and remote locations. The mysterious well in a small, forgotten village was unlike anything I'd encountered before. The well had a dark legend attached to it, and the locals avoided it at all costs. Intrigued, I decided to investigate, despite the eerie warnings. The well stood in the middle of an overgrown clearing, stones covered in strange ancient marking. Chilling wind blew through the trees, adding to the haunting atmosphere. I set up my equipment and began to examine the marking. They were unlike anything I had seen, with symbols that seemed to pulse with an eerie energy. The deeper I looked, the more I felt a sense of unease. It was as if the well was watching me, waiting for me to make a mistake. I lowered a camera into the well, hoping to capture images of whatever lay below. The rope creaked ominously, the sound echoing off the stone walls. As the camera descended, the screen showed nothing but darkness. Suddenly, the image flickered, and I caught a glimpse of something moving. My heart raced as I tried to focus the camera, but the figure disappeared. The air around me grew colder, and I felt a chilling presence behind me. I turned quickly. There was nothing there. The well's legend spoke of a malevolent force that resided within, and I began to believe it. Determined to uncover the truth, I peered over the edge of the well. The darkness seemed to swallow the light, creating an eerie void. I lowered the camera further, the screen showing only shadows. Then, without warning, the rope jerked violently, and the camera was ripped from my hands. A chilling laugh echoed from the depths, sending shivers down my spine. I stumbled back, my mind racing with fear and confusion. I tried to rationalize what had happened, but the haunting presence was undeniable. The markings on the well seemed to glow with a malevolent light, and I knew I had to leave. As I packed up my equipment, the ground beneath me began to tremble. The well seemed to pulse with an eerie energy, and a thick mist rose from its depths. Panic set in, and I hurried to gather my things, my hands shaking uncontrollably. Just as I was about to leave, a forceful gust of wind knocked me off my feet. I scrambled to get up, but the ground seemed to pull me towards the well. The mist thickened, forming ghostly shapes that reached out with clawed hands. I fought against the invisible pull, my heart pounding in my chest. The well's dark legend was becoming terrifyingly real, and I was trapped in its haunting grip. The chilling force was relentless. With a surge of adrenaline, I managed to break free and ran towards the village. The eerie mist followed, swirling around me like a malevolent entity. I burst into the nearest house, gasping for breath. The villagers stared at me with a mix of fear and understanding. They knew the well's dark secret, and their haunted expressions told me I was not the first to encounter its malevolence. The village elder approached, his eyes filled with sorrow. He explained that the well had been cursed for centuries, a portal to a dark and vengeful spirit. Many had tried to uncover its secrets, but none had succeeded. The markings were a warning, a barrier to keep the evil contained. I realized how close I had come to being consumed by the well's haunting power. The elder's words were chilling, and I knew I had to leave the village and its dark legend behind. The experience had shaken me to my core. Back home, I tried to put the experience behind me, but the haunting memories lingered. The well's malevolent force and the eerie presence stayed with me, a constant reminder of the dangers of delving too deep into the unknown. I shared my story with colleagues, but many dismissed it as a figment of my imagination. However, the chilling reality of what I had encountered was something I could never forget. Years later, the memory of the haunted well still sends shivers down my spine. The strange markings, the eerie mist, and the malevolent force are etched into my mind. The experience taught me to respect the mysteries of the world and the haunting powers that lie hidden within. It's a story I tell with caution, a chilling reminder of the thin veil between our world and the unknown. The haunted well remains a legend, and its dark power continues to haunt me. It was a sunny afternoon when my friends and I decided to explore an old, abandoned mine on the outskirts of town. The entrance was overgrown with weeds, and the rusted sign warning of danger only added to the eerie allure. Armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure, we ventured into the darkness. The air grew colder as we descended, and the light from the entrance faded, replaced by an unsettling silence. Our footsteps echoed through the empty tunnels, creating a haunting soundtrack to our adventure. As we delved deeper, the walls seemed to close in, and the air became thick with dust. Strange noises echoed around us, a chilling reminder that we were far from the safety of the surface. The mine's history was filled with tragic accidents, and it felt as if the spirits of the past were watching us. We pressed on, our excitement tinged with fear. The darkness was almost tangible, wrapping around us like a cold, damp blanket. Suddenly, we heard a distant rumble. Ground beneath us shook, and small rocks began to fall from the ceiling. Panic set in as we realized we were in the midst of a cave-in. We scrambled to find an exit, our flashlights flickering ominously. The eerie noise of shifting earth filled the air, and our hearts raced. In the chaos, we became separated, each of us desperately trying to find a way out. Mine had turned from an adventure into a nightmare. I found myself in a narrow tunnel, the walls pressing in on me. The darkness was overwhelming, and the sounds of the cave-in echoed around me, creating a haunting symphony of terror. My flashlight flickered and died, plunging me into complete darkness. I fumbled for my phone, using its weak light to guide me. The eerie silence was broken only by my ragged breathing and the occasional rumble from the collapsing mine. Fear was suffocating. After what felt like an eternity, I saw a faint light ahead. I hurried towards it, my heart pounding with hope and fear. I emerged into a larger chamber where my friends were waiting. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. The exit was blocked by fallen rocks, and we were trapped. We searched for another way out, the eerie atmosphere weighing heavily on us. The mine seemed to close in, its dark history becoming all too real. As we explored the chamber, we discovered old mining equipment and personal belongings left behind by the miners. It was a chilling reminder of the mine's tragic past. We found a journal, its pages yellowed with age, detailing the final days of the miners trapped during a cave-in decades ago. Their haunting words described the growing despair and fear, mirroring our own situation. Eerie connection to the past was unsettling. Hours passed, and our situation grew more desperate. The air was thick and hard to breathe, and our hope began to wane. We heard faint voices, eerie and indistinct, like whispers carried on the wind. It was as if the spirits of the miners were reaching out to us, their presence a chilling reminder of our own mortality. We followed the voices, hoping they would lead us to safety. The mine was a labyrinth, and every turn seemed to lead us deeper into darkness. Just when we thought we were lost, we stumbled upon an old ventilation shaft. It was narrow and unstable, but it offered a glimmer of hope. We climbed through, one by one, the eerie sounds of the mine echoing around us. The shaft led to a small opening, and we crawled through, emerging into the cool night air. Relief and exhaustion washed over us as we realized we had escaped. The mine's haunting presence was behind us, but the experience had left its mark. We reported the cave-in to the authorities, who sealed the mine to prevent future tragedies. The eerie adventure had taken its toll on us, and we vowed never to return. The abandoned mine, with its dark history and chilling atmosphere, was a place best left undisturbed. The memories of the cave-in, the whispers, and the haunting sense of being watched stayed with us, a reminder of how close we had come to joining the spirits of the past. Back home, we shared our story with friends and family, each retelling a way to process the fear and relief. The abandoned mine adventure became a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder of the dangers hidden beneath the surface. The experience had brought us closer, but it had also instilled a deep respect for the unknown. Mine's eerie presence and tragic history were etched into our memories, a haunting chapter in our lives that we would never forget. Years later, the memory of that day still sends shivers down my spine. The abandoned mine, with its eerie atmosphere and tragic past, remains a symbol of our brush with danger. It's a story we share with a mix of fear and awe, a reminder of the thin line between adventure and disaster. The haunting experience has left a lasting impact, testament to the power of the unknown and the resilience of the human spirit. Working late at the store one night, I stumbled upon something disturbing. As I was closing up, I noticed a small hidden camera tucked away in one of the fitting rooms. My heart skipped a beat as I realized someone had been spying on customers. The thought was chilling, and I knew I had to report it. But as I reached for my phone, an eerie feeling washed over me. The store was empty, but I couldn't shake the sense I was being watched. I quickly reported the camera to my manager, who promised to investigate. The next day, we reviewed the security footage and discovered that the camera had been placed there recently. Culprit was careful, always wearing a hood to obscure their face. The haunting realization that the person might still be around made my skin crawl. We decided to notify the police, hoping they could find the person responsible. Days passed, and the store's atmosphere grew tense. Every time I entered the fitting rooms, I felt a chill, as if the walls themselves were watching. Police investigation was slow, and there were no leads. One evening, as I was about to leave, I noticed a shadowy figure lingering near the fitting rooms. My heart raced, and I decided to confront them. The figure bolted, disappearing into the night. The encounter left me shaken and more determined to find out who was behind the surveillance. I started my own investigation, reviewing footage and talking to coworkers. The pieces slowly came together, and I began to suspect one of our regular customers, a man who always seemed to hang around the fitting rooms. His behavior had always been a bit off, but now it seemed downright sinister. I shared my suspicions with the police, who agreed to keep an eye on him. The chilling feeling of being watched never left me. One night, I stayed late to catch the suspect in the act. Hiding in a corner, I waited, my heart pounding with anticipation and fear. Hours passed. Just when I thought he wouldn't show, I saw him slip into the store. He headed straight for the fitting rooms, pulling out another hidden camera. The eerie realization that I had been right all along was both satisfying and terrifying. I called the police, hoping they would arrive before he noticed me. As the police arrived, the man tried to flee. They caught him. The relief was overwhelming, but the haunting memory of his actions stayed with me. The store felt tainted by his presence, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The police found more cameras and discovered that he had been doing this for months, gathering footage for unknown purposes. The thought was chilling, and the store's staff and customers were all deeply affected. With the culprit caught, the store tried to return to normal, but the eerie atmosphere lingered. The fitting rooms, once a place of privacy, now felt invasive and uncomfortable. We installed additional security measures and made sure everyone was vigilant. The experience had left a mark on all of us, a haunting reminder of how easily our privacy could be violated. The chilling events had changed the way we viewed our workplace. Months later, the store finally felt a bit safer, but the memory of the surveillance mystery remained. I often found myself looking over my shoulder, the haunting experience always at the back of my mind. It had made me more cautious, more aware of my surroundings. The eerie feeling of being watched faded. The lessons learned were permanent. We had become a close-knit team, united by the ordeal we had endured. Sharing the story with friends and family, I realized how important it was to stay vigilant. The chilling events at the store had taught me the value of trust and the necessity of security. It was a story that served as a warning, a reminder that we must always be aware of our surroundings. The haunting experience had changed me, making me more protective of my personal space and the privacy of those around me. Years later, the memory of the store surveillance mystery still sends shivers down my spine. The eerie atmosphere, the hidden cameras, and the haunting sense of being watched are etched into my mind. It's a story I share with caution, knowing the fear it can evoke. The experience remains a testament to the importance of vigilance and the chilling reality. Sometimes, the danger is closer than we think. After a long day on the road, I pulled into a rundown motel that looked like it hadn't seen a guest in years. The sign flickered, casting eerie shadows across the cracked pavement. Exhausted, I trudged into the lobby, where the gaunt clerk handed me a rusty key with a chilling smile. The room smelled of mildew, and the wallpaper was peeling, but all I wanted was sleep. As I lay on the creaky bed, a haunting feeling settled over me. Suddenly, I heard a faint scratching sound coming from the corner of the room. My heart raced as the noise grew louder and more persistent. I turned on the lamp. There was nothing there. The eerie sensation intensified, and I felt as if someone was watching me. The gaunt figure I'd seen earlier now stood outside my window, his eyes glowing eerily in the darkness. Panic set in, and I tried to rationalize what I was seeing. I decided to leave, but as I reached for the door, the figure began scratching at the window with long, bony fingers. The sound was chilling, sending shivers down my spine. I fumbled with the lock, my hands trembling. The scratching grew louder, almost frantic. When I finally managed to open the door, the figure was gone, replaced by an eerie silence that filled the room. I stepped into the hallway, my mind racing with fear and confusion. As I hurried down the dimly lit corridor, the scratching sound followed me. Echoing off the walls, it was as if the gaunt figure was chasing me, unseen but ever present. My breath quickened and my pulse pounded in my ears. I reached the lobby, only to find it empty. Clerk was gone, and the front door stood ajar, swaying gently in the wind. I stepped outside into the cold night air, hoping to escape the haunting presence. To my horror, the figure stood at the edge of the parking lot, his eerie eyes locked onto mine. I sprinted to my car, fumbling for my keys. The engine roared to life, and I sped away, glancing in the rearview mirror to see the figure recede into the distance. The adrenaline surged through me as I drove away, leaving the eerie motel behind. But the chilling feeling lingered, and I couldn't shake the haunting image from my mind. As I drove, the night grew darker, and the road seemed to stretch endlessly. Every shadow seemed to hide something sinister, and every sound made me jump. The eerie events of the night played over and over in my mind, each memory more haunting than the last. I couldn't escape the feeling that the gaunt figure was still watching me, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Fear was suffocating, wrapping around me like a cold, damp blanket. I finally reached a busy highway, bright lights and traffic offering a semblance of safety. Chilling experience at the motel seemed like a distant nightmare, but the eerie feeling never completely left me. I vowed never to stop at a roadside motel again, no matter how tired I was. The memory of the gaunt figure and the haunting sounds stayed with me, constant reminder of the night I narrowly escaped from an eerie, haunted motel. Even now, I can't drive past a rundown motel without feeling a chill run down my spine. The haunting experience has left me hyper-aware of my surroundings, always on edge. I often wonder who or what that gaunt figure was and why it chose to torment me that night. Questions linger, unanswered, adding to the eerie mystery of the whole ordeal. The haunting memory is a reminder that some things are better left unexplored. Years later, I occasionally search for information about that motel, hoping to find some explanation for the chilling events I experienced. But all I find are vague references and eerie rumors, nothing concrete. It's as if the motel and its gaunt figure are part of a haunting legend that continues to ensnare weary travelers. The mystery remains unsolved, a chilling tale that I carry with me, forever etched in my memory. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, I think I hear that familiar scratching sound, and my heart races all over again. The haunting experience has left a permanent mark, a reminder of the eerie night I spent at the rundown motel. It's a story I share with friends, a chilling tale that always leaves them with a sense of unease. Eerie events of that night are a haunting memory that I will never forget. Reminder that some places are best avoided. As a wildlife biologist, I've had my fair share of strange encounters, but nothing could prepare me for what I witnessed deep in the forest one chilling autumn night. I had been tracking a pack of wolves for weeks, studying their behavior and movements. The air was crisp, and the eerie silence of the woods was only broken by the occasional rustle of leaves. Suddenly, I noticed the wolves behaving oddly, their eyes glowing hauntingly as they moved in perfect unison, almost as if they were being controlled. Intrigued, I moved closer, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and curiosity. To my horror, I saw masked figures standing in a circle, chanting in a language I couldn't understand. The wolves seemed to respond to their commands, growing more aggressive and erratic. It was a chilling sight, one that made my skin crawl. I realized I had stumbled upon something sinister, something that went beyond natural animal behavior. The eerie scene sent shivers down my spine. The masked figures turned their heads in unison, their eyes locking onto mine. Panic surged through me as the wolves began to advance, their growls low and menacing. I knew I had to escape before it was too late. I turned and ran, my feet pounding the forest floor, branches snapping underfoot. The howls of the wolves grew louder, echoing through the trees, chilling me to the bone. I pushed myself harder, the fear of being caught fueling my frantic pace. The forest seemed to close in around me, every shadow hiding a potential threat. I could hear the wolves gaining on me, their snarls growing more frantic. My breath came in ragged gasps, and my legs burned with exertion. I stumbled over roots and rocks, desperate to put as much distance as possible between myself and the eerie scene I'd left behind. The haunting presence of the masked figures and their unnatural control over the wolves filled me with dread. As I neared a clearing, I saw a narrow path leading to a river. I veered towards it, hoping the water would slow the wolves down. I splashed through the shallow river, icy water numbing my feet, but giving me a brief respite from the pursuit. The howls faded slightly, and I dared to glance back. The wolves had paused at the river's edge, their glowing eyes still fixed on me. The masked figures stood behind them, their eerie chanting growing fainter. I continued along the riverbank, my mind racing with thoughts of the strange ritual I had witnessed. What were those masked figures doing, and why were the wolves responding to them? Questions haunted me as I pushed on, determined to reach safety. The forest grew denser, and the path became harder to follow. I knew I couldn't stop, not until I was far away from the eerie scene and its haunting participant. The chilling memory spurred me on. Hours passed before I finally reached the edge of the forest, first light of dawn breaking through the trees. Exhausted and shaken, I stumbled into a small village where I found refuge. I shared my story with the locals, hoping for some explanation, but they only exchanged uneasy glances and muttered about old legends. It seemed the forest had its secrets, and I had just encountered one of its most chilling. The haunting experience left me wary of returning. Back at my lab, I reviewed my notes and footage, but the eerie events of that night seemed almost unreal. Memory of the masked figures and the unnaturally aggressive wolves stayed with me, haunting reminder of the dangers lurking in the shadows. I knew I had witnessed something beyond my understanding, something that defied the natural order. The chilling experience changed the way I viewed the forest and its inhabitant. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, even in the safety of my home. The eerie memory of that night followed me, haunting my dreams and filling me with a sense of unease. I continued my research. The passion I once had was tainted by fear. The forest, once a place of wonder and discovery, became a place of chilling mystery and danger. The haunting experience left a permanent mark on me, one that would never fade. Years later, the memory of that night still sends shivers down my spine. Eerie behavior of the wolves and the haunting presence of the masked figures remain unexplained, a chilling mystery that I may never solve. The experience taught me to respect the unknown and to be wary of what lies beyond the natural world. It's a story I share cautiously, knowing that some things are best left in the shadows. The haunting memory is a reminder of the thin line between science and the supernatural. One summer afternoon, I decided to embark on a solo hiking trip through a dense forest known for its serene beauty and challenging trails. The air was crisp, and the sunlight filtered through the canopy, creating a mesmerizing pattern on the forest floor. About midway through my hike, I stumbled upon a hidden clearing. To my surprise, it was occupied by a group of camouflaged survivalists, their camp blending almost seamlessly into the surroundings. My heart skipped a beat as I realized the gravity of the situation. The survivalists, armed and wary, quickly noticed my presence. One of them approached me with a chilling look in his eyes, demanding to know who I was and why I was there. My mind raced, trying to come up with a plausible explanation that wouldn't escalate the situation. I told them I was just a hiker who had lost his way, hoping they would believe my story. The tension was palpable, and I could feel their suspicion growing. They decided to hold me at their camp while they figured out what to do with me. I was forced to sit by the fire, surrounded by armed men whose eyes never left me. The atmosphere was eerie, with an undercurrent of hostility that made my skin crawl. I tried to stay calm, but the fear was overwhelming. The thought of what they might do to me if they didn't believe my story was haunting. The hours dragged on, each minute feeling like an eternity. As night fell, the camp grew quieter, and the survivalists began to relax slightly. One of the guards, a younger man who seemed less hardened than the others, was left to watch over me. I noticed he was tired and distracted, his eyes occasionally drooping. This was my chance. I waited for the right moment, my heart pounding with anticipation. When he finally let his guard down, I made my move, swiftly and silently slipping away from the camp. The forest was dark and foreboding, the shadows creating eerie shapes that played tricks on my mind. I moved as quickly and quietly as I could, fear of being caught driving me forward. My breath came in short, sharp bursts, and my pulse raced. The chilling thought of what might happen if they found me kept me on edge. Every snap of a twig or rustle of leaves made me jump, my nerves frayed from the constant tension. I navigated through the dense underbrush, the branches scratching at my arms and legs. The further I got from the camp, the more confident I felt. But I knew I couldn't let my guard down. The survivalists were skilled hunters, and they would be relentless if they discovered my escape. I pushed on, my mind focused on finding the trail that would lead me back to safety. The eerie silence of the forest was occasionally broken by distant animal calls, adding to the haunting atmosphere. Hours passed, and I finally reached a familiar trail. Relief washed over me, but I didn't stop moving until I was sure I was far enough from the survivalists' camp. Exhausted and shaken, I collapsed against a tree, my body trembling with adrenaline and fear. The chilling encounter had left me deeply unsettled, and I knew I would never forget the haunting experience. The forest, once a place of solace, now held a darker, more sinister memory. As dawn broke, I resumed my hike, determined to put as much distance between myself and the camp as possible. The beauty of the forest was overshadowed by the chilling events of the previous night. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, and every rustle of leaves set my heart racing. Haunting memory of the armed survivalists stayed with me, a constant reminder of the dangers lurking in the wilderness. When I finally emerged from the forest, the sunlight felt like a warm embrace, and I breathed a sigh of relief. I had escaped the eerie camp, but the experience had left a lasting impact. The forest, with its hidden dangers and chilling encounters, had taught me a valuable lesson about the unpredictability of nature. I vowed to be more cautious in the future, never taking the serenity of the wilderness for granted again. Back home, I shared my story with friends and family, each retelling a cathartic release of the fear and tension I had felt. The chilling encounter became a tale of caution and survival, a reminder of the thin line between adventure and danger. The haunting memory of the armed survivalists served as a constant reminder to respect the wild and be prepared for the unexpected. It was a story that I would carry with me, chilling chapter in my adventures as a hiker. As a photographer always on the lookout for unique and eerie locations, I found myself exploring an abandoned fishing village one misty morning. The air was thick with fog, and the dilapidated buildings stood like silent sentinels against the gray sky. The village had an unsettling aura, as if it had been frozen in time. I wandered through the empty streets, my camera clicking away, capturing the haunting beauty of the place. The stillness was almost deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of an old wooden sign swinging in the breeze. As I ventured deeper into the village, I noticed a faint outline of a figure in the distance. My heart skipped a beat as I focused my lens on what appeared to be a ghostly girl standing near the water's edge. Her clothes were tattered, and her long hair obscured her face. The sight was chilling, yet I was drawn to her, compelled to capture the eerie moment. I moved closer, my breath catching in my throat. Fog seemed to thicken around her, adding to the haunting atmosphere. Suddenly, she vanished, leaving me staring at the empty spot where she had stood. A shiver ran down my spine, and I felt a sense of unease settle over me. The village, once merely abandoned, now felt sinister and malevolent. I reviewed the photos on my camera, but the girl was nowhere to be seen. The experience was deeply unsettling, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The fog closed in around me, the eerie silence amplifying my growing fear. Determined to uncover more, I continued to explore, each step heavier than the last. The buildings loomed over me, their windows like dark, empty eyes. I entered an old fishery, the smell of salt and decay still lingering in the air. Inside, the shadows seemed to move, creating an eerie sense of movement. I tried to steady my nerves, but the haunting presence of the ghostly girl weighed heavily on my mind. The village felt alive with unseen eyes. As I snapped more photos, I heard a faint whispering, like distant voices carried on the wind. My heart raced as I strained to listen, but the words were indistinct, haunting in their intangibility. I followed the sound, my footsteps echoing in the empty streets. The whispering led me to an old church, at the edge of the village, its doors ajar and creaking in the breeze. The chilling atmosphere made me hesitate. Curiosity pushed me forward. Inside the church, the air was thick with a sense of foreboding. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light that pierced the gloom. The whispering grew louder, more insistent, as if beckoning me further. I moved down the aisle, the old wooden pews creaking under my weight. At the altar, I found an old photograph, yellowed with age, showing the same ghostly girl I had seen earlier. My hands trembled as I held it, the haunting image confirming that she was more than a figment of my imagination. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, and the whispering ceased. I was plunged into darkness. I hurried back to my car, glancing over my shoulder as if the ghostly girl might reappear at any moment. The village seemed to watch me leave, secrets hidden behind a veil of fog and silence. As I drove away, the chilling experience replayed in my mind, each detail more haunting than the last. The photos I had taken felt like relics of a nightmare, capturing the eerie beauty and haunting presence of the abandoned village. Back home, I reviewed the photographs again, searching for any sign of the ghostly girl. To my surprise, she appeared in several shots, figure faint and ethereal. The realization sent shivers down my spine, confirming that what I had seen was real. The haunting experience left me deeply unsettled, a chilling reminder of the mysteries that lie hidden in forgotten places. The abandoned fishing village had left a mark on me, one that would not easily fade. The experience changed the way I viewed my work, adding a layer of caution to my explorations. The eerie village and its ghostly inhabitant remained a haunting memory, a story I shared with fellow photographers and friends. It served as a chilling reminder of the unknown, the secrets that linger in the shadows. The abandoned fishing village, with its haunting beauty and eerie presence, became a legend in my mind, a place where the past and present seemed to merge in a chilling dance. Climbing a snow-covered mountain had always been on my bucket list, so when I got the chance, I didn't hesitate. Climb was grueling, and the weather was merciless, but the thrill of the ascent kept me going. As the blizzard intensified, visibility dropped to near zero, and the cold was bone-chilling. I stumbled upon a group of climbers huddled together, their figures barely discernible through the swirling snow. They looked relieved to see me, but something about their demeanor was off. The leader of the group, a burly man with a haunted look in his eyes, approached me. His voice was strained as he explained that they had been stranded for days and were running low on supplies. Their story seemed plausible, but an eerie feeling gnawed at the back of my mind. The others remained silent, their eyes darting around nervously. The atmosphere was tense, and I couldn't shake the sense that there was more to their story than they were letting on. As night fell, the blizzard worsened, and we had no choice but to camp together. The stranded climbers shared their meager rations with me, but their behavior grew increasingly strange. They whispered among themselves, casting furtive glances my way. I tried to stay alert. Cold and exhaustion were overwhelming. As I drifted off to sleep, I heard them discussing something in hushed tones. The words were indistinct, but the tone was chilling. I awoke to find the leader standing over me, his expression dark and menacing. He demanded my supplies, his voice a low growl. The others surrounded us, their faces twisted with desperation and aggression. Panic surged through me as I realized the danger I was in. They were no longer just stranded climbers. They had become something more sinister. The eerie atmosphere was suffocating, and I knew I had to act fast. Feigning compliance, I handed over my pack, all the while scanning the area for an escape route. As they rummaged through my belongings, I saw my chance. I bolted, my heart pounding as I raced through the snow. The wind howled around me, and the snow stunned my face, but I didn't dare look back. The sound of their shouts grew fainter as I put more distance between us. The blizzard was my only ally, concealing my escape in its white embrace. I pushed on through the night, my body aching from the cold and exertion. The fear of being caught drove me forward, each step a struggle against the element. The chilling memory of their eyes, filled with a haunting mix of desperation and madness, spurred me on. The mountain, once a challenge to conquer, had become a battleground for survival. Every gust of wind and crunch of snow underfoot was a reminder of the danger I had narrowly escaped. By dawn, I had reached a sheltered ledge, offering a brief respite from the relentless storm. I huddled there, trying to regain my strength and composure. Eerie events of the night replayed in my mind, each detail more haunting than the last. Stranded climbers had become a chilling memory, their desperate faces etched into my thoughts. I knew I had to keep moving if I wanted to survive, but the experience had shaken me to my core. When I finally descended the mountain and reached a base camp, I shared my story with the authorities. They organized a search party, but the stranded climbers were never found. The blizzard had erased all traces of them, leaving only the haunting memory of our encounter. The chilling experience had left me deeply unsettled, a reminder of the thin line between humanity and madness. The mountain, with its eerie beauty and hidden dangers, had taught me a lesson I would never forget. Back home, I found it difficult to recount the events without a shiver running down my spine. The eerie encounter had changed me, instilling a newfound respect for the unpredictable nature of the wilderness. Friends and family listened in disbelief as I described the stranded climbers and their haunting transformation. The story served as a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder of the dangers that lie hidden in the harshest environment. Years later, the memory of that blizzard and the sinister climbers still haunts me. The mountain, once a place of adventure and excitement, now holds a darker significance. The chilling encounter has become a part of my story, a haunting chapter that I carry with me. It serves as a reminder to be cautious, to respect the power of nature, and to never underestimate the desperation that can drive people to madness. The mountain's eerie beauty and hidden perils are forever etched in my mind. Driving through the desolate highways of the Midwest with my wife beside me, the journey had been long but peaceful. The sun had set, and the eerie glow of the headlights cut through the darkness. We were about to pass a lonely stretch of road when we saw a figure ahead, waving frantically. As we approached, we saw a hitchhiker, his clothes disheveled and his eyes wide with desperation. Against my better judgment, I pulled over, thinking we could offer some help. He climbed into the back seat, mumbling thanks and asking for a ride to the next town. His voice was shaky and his eyes darted around nervously. There was something chilling about him that set me on edge. As we drove on, the conversation turned unsettling. He spoke of being followed, of danger lurking just out of sight. Paranoia was contagious, and I felt a growing unease. The atmosphere in the car grew tense, and my wife's grip on my arm tightened. Suddenly, he pulled out a knife, his eyes wild and threatening. "Don't make any sudden moves," he warned, the blade glinting in the dim light. My heart raced, and I struggled to keep calm. The situation had turned from eerie to terrifying in an instant. My mind raced, trying to think of a way out without provoking him. My wife and I exchanged a look, silently agreeing that we needed to stay calm and look for an opportunity to escape. The hitchhiker's paranoia grew, and he began ranting about conspiracies and unseen enemies. His grip on the knife tightened, and the car's claustrophobic atmosphere became unbearable. Every mile felt like an eternity, and I kept my eyes on the road, praying for a chance to get away. The tension was suffocating, and the eerie silence between his outbursts only made it worse. My wife's quiet sobs broke my heart, and I knew we had to act fast. In a stroke of luck, we saw a gas station sign ahead, its neon lights a beacon of hope. I told the hitchhiker we needed to stop for gas, keeping my voice steady despite the fear. He hesitated but agreed, his eyes narrowing suspiciously. As we pulled into the station, I tried to think of a way to signal for help. The eerie feeling of being trapped with this armed stranger was overwhelming. I parked the car, keeping the engine running. I offered to go inside and pay, but he insisted on coming with me. My wife stayed in the car, her eyes pleading with me to be careful. Inside the gas station, the clerk looked up, sensing something was wrong. I subtly signaled for help, hoping he understood. The hitchhiker grew more agitated, his paranoia escalating. The clerk, picking up on the tension, nodded slightly and moved towards the phone. The situation was becoming more dangerous by the second. As we walked back to the car, I saw my wife quietly open her door, ready to make a run for it. The hitchhiker noticed and lunged towards her, but I tackled him, the knife clattering to the ground. My wife scrambled out of the car, and I shouted for her to run. The gas station clerk rushed out, brandishing a bat, and together we managed to subdue the hitchhiker. Police arrived shortly after, their flashing lights piercing the eerie darkness. The ordeal was over, but the chilling memory stayed with us. The hitchhiker was arrested, and we gave our statements to the police. The eerie feeling of that night, the terrifying moments with the knife-wielding stranger, left a permanent mark. Driving home, the sense of relief was overwhelming, but the fear lingered. A desolate highway, once a path of adventure, had turned into a nightmare. The experience taught us to be more cautious, to trust our instincts. Back home, the safety and warmth were a stark contrast to the chilling encounter. We shared our story with friends and family, each retelling a way to process the fear. The terrifying roadside encounter became a lesson in survival and the importance of staying alert. The eerie events of that night were a haunting reminder of how quickly things could go wrong. It was a story we would never forget, a chapter in our lives that had taught us valuable lessons. Years later, the memory of that night still sends shivers down my spine. The roadside encounter with the paranoid hitchhiker remains a chilling reminder of the dangers that can lurk in the most unexpected places. We've become more cautious travelers, always aware of our surroundings. The eerie events of that night left a lasting impact, a story we share with a mix of fear and relief. Terrifying encounter has become a part of our shared history, a testament to our resilience and quick thinking. It was a bright and breezy morning when I joined a beach cleanup in Santa Monica. The sun shone down on us as we scoured the shoreline, picking up trash and enjoying the salty air. Everything seemed perfect until I stumbled upon a mysterious box half buried in the sand. The box was weathered and covered in strange symbols that sent a chill down my spine. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to take a closer look. Opening the box, I found a collection of old photographs and documents. The images were eerie, depicting hooded figures standing in a circle, their faces obscured. The documents were written in a language I couldn't understand, filled with strange symbols similar to those on the box. A sense of unease washed over me as I realized I had uncovered something sinister. I showed the contents to my fellow volunteers, but they were just as baffled as I was. As the day wore on, I couldn't shake the haunting feeling that the box had brought something ominous into our midst. We continued the cleanup, but I felt a constant sense of being watched. Suddenly, I noticed a group of men standing at the edge of the beach, their eyes fixed on us. They were dressed in dark clothing, and their presence was unsettling. I tried to ignore them, but the eerie feeling only grew stronger. During a break, one of the men approached me. His expression was stern, and his voice was low and threatening. He demanded to know where I had found the box, his eyes filled with a chilling intensity. I tried to remain calm, but my heart raced with fear. I told him the truth, hoping he would leave us alone. Instead, he grabbed the box and warned me to forget I had ever seen it. The encounter left me shaken, and I knew we were in danger. The men continued to watch us from a distance, their presence casting a dark shadow over the sunny day. The other volunteers noticed my unease and asked what had happened. I shared the details of the encounter, and a sense of dread settled over the group. We decided to leave the beach, but as we packed up, the men began to follow us. The situation had turned from a peaceful cleanup to a chilling game of cat and mouse. We reached the parking lot, our movements hurried and tense. The men were still there, watching our every move. As we loaded our cars, I saw one of them speaking into a phone, his eyes never leaving us. The air was thick with fear. I felt trapped. We managed to leave the beach, but the eerie feeling of being followed persisted. I drove home, my hands gripping the wheel tightly, constantly checking the rearview mirror. That night, couldn't sleep. The images from the box and the menacing presence of the strangers haunted my thoughts. I researched the symbols and found vague references to secret societies and ancient rituals. The information was scarce, but it confirmed my suspicions that we had stumbled upon something dangerous. The haunting realization that these men were part of a secret society made my skin crawl. Over the next few days, I noticed strange cars parked near my house and unfamiliar faces in the neighborhood. The sense of being watched was overwhelming, and I felt a constant chill down my spine. I contacted the other volunteers, and they reported similar experiences. We decided to meet and discuss our next steps, but the fear of retaliation kept us on edge. The eerie events had brought us closer, but the danger was ever present. During our meeting, we agreed to contact the authorities and share everything we knew. The police took our statements and promised to investigate, but their reassurances did little to ease our fears. The men in dark clothing seemed to disappear, but the sense of unease remained. We had exposed a secret, and the chilling consequences were far from over. The beach, once a place of relaxation, had become a symbol of fear and mystery. Months passed, and the strange occurrences gradually faded. The memory of the ominous beach cleanup lingered, a haunting reminder of the dangers that can hide in plain sight. We continued our volunteer work, but we were more cautious, always aware of our surroundings. The experience had changed us, instilling a deep respect for the unknown and the power of secret. The eerie events had left a lasting impact, a story we shared with a mix of fear and fascination. Years later, the memory of that day still sends shivers down my spine. The mysterious box, the hooded figures, and the menacing strangers are etched into my mind. It's a story I tell with caution, knowing the fear it can evoke. The experience remains a testament to the power of curiosity and the chilling reality that some secrets are best left undiscovered. Our family camping trip to Yosemite was supposed to be a peaceful getaway, chance to reconnect with nature and each other. The first few days were perfect, hiking, fishing, and enjoying the stunning views. But on the third night, things took a chilling turn. We were sitting around the campfire when we heard rustling in the bushes. At first, we thought it was just animals, but then we noticed shadowy figures moving in the darkness. The eerie feeling that something was wrong settled over us like a heavy blanket. Suddenly, a group of men emerged from the woods, their faces hidden under hoods. They demanded we leave, claiming this territory was theirs. Their voices were low and threatening, and their eyes gleamed with a menacing intensity. Fear gripped us as we realized these were not ordinary campers. The atmosphere grew tense, and we felt trapped. The darkness seemed to close in around us, making it hard to breathe. We tried to reason with them, explaining that we were just a family on vacation. But they were relentless, insisting we pack up and go. The situation was escalating quickly, and I could see the fear in my children's eyes. We began to gather our things, moving slowly to avoid provoking them. The eerie silence was broken only by the crackling of the fire and the rustling of leaves. My heart pounded as we worked in a tense, terrified silence. Just as we were about to leave, another group appeared from the opposite direction. They were armed and looked just as menacing. A territorial dispute between the two groups quickly escalated, and we found ourselves caught in the middle. The night was filled with angry shouts and threats, the tension so thick it was almost tangible. The thought of being caught in a violent confrontation was chilling, and we knew we had to find a way out. My wife and I exchanged a look, silently agreeing on a plan. We grabbed our kids and slipped away into the darkness, hoping to go unnoticed. The forest was thick and unforgiving, the branches scratching at our skin as we ran. The sounds of the confrontation faded behind us. The fear lingered. We stumbled through the woods, our breaths coming in ragged gasps. The eerie stillness of the night was punctuated by distant shouts and gunshots. We eventually found a small cave and huddled inside, trying to catch our breath. Children were scared, and we did our best to comfort them. The haunting experience had left us shaken, and we knew we had to keep moving. The cave provided a brief respite, but the fear of being found kept us on edge. The forest, once a place of beauty and tranquility, had become a nightmarish labyrinth. The eerie atmosphere was suffocating. As dawn broke, we cautiously made our way back to the main trail. The park rangers had been alerted to the commotion, and we soon stumbled upon a search party. Relief washed over us as we realized we were safe. We told the rangers about the men and the dispute, and they assured us they would investigate. The experience had left us deeply unsettled, a chilling reminder of the dangers that can lurk even in the most beautiful places. Back at the ranger station, we recounted our story, each detail more haunting than the last. The rangers took our statements and promised to increase patrols in the area. The thought of returning to our campsite was too much to bear, so we decided to cut our trip short. The drive home was filled with silence, each of us lost in our thoughts. Eerie events of the night had left a lasting impact, and we struggled to process what had happened. At home, the sense of safety was a stark contrast to the fear we had felt in the forest. We shared our story with friends and family, each retelling a way to process the trauma. The terrifying camping trip had brought us closer together, but it had also instilled a deep sense of caution. The experience served as a haunting reminder that danger can strike anywhere, even in the most unexpected places. Years later, the memory of that night still sends shivers down my spine. The shadowy figures, the territorial dispute, and the desperate escape are etched into my mind. It's a story we share with caution, knowing the fear it can evoke. The terrifying camping trip remains a testament to the resilience of our family and the chilling reality that even the most serene places can harbor danger. One night, I was driving back from a business trip, feeling confident that taking a shortcut would save me time. The road was poorly lit, and as I drove further, my gas gauge dipped dangerously low. With no signs of civilization for miles, I felt a wave of anxiety wash over me. Suddenly, I saw a flickering neon sign up ahead. It was a diner, seemingly abandoned, but with lights still on. Desperate for fuel and food, I decided to stop. As I walked in, the eerie atmosphere hit me. The diner was almost empty, with only a couple sitting in a corner booth whispering to each other. The place felt hauntingly silent, except for the occasional clink of their silverware. Couple's eyes followed me as I approached the counter, their stares unnervingly intense. A chill ran down my spine, but I brushed it off, thinking they were just curious about a rare visitor. The waitress, a gaunt woman with a forced smile, came out from the back. Her demeanor was unsettling, and she seemed to be hiding something. I asked if there was a gas station nearby, and she nodded slowly, pointing down the road. Her eyes darted to the couple and then back to me, her smile never reaching her eyes. The situation felt increasingly eerie, but I thanked her and ordered a coffee to warm up. As I waited, the couple continued to watch me, their whispers growing louder and more frantic. The air was thick with tension, and I couldn't shake the feeling of impending danger. I decided to leave, but just as I stood up, the man from the booth approached me. His eyes were dark and empty, and he spoke in a low, threatening tone. "You're not going anywhere," he said, a chilling grin spreading across his face. Panic set in, and I glanced around for an escape. The woman blocked the entrance, her stance menacing. The couple's behavior was terrifying, and I knew I had to act fast. I threw my coffee at the man and bolted for the kitchen door, hoping it led to a back exit. The diner erupted in chaos, the couple shouting angrily as they chased me. My heart pounded as I ran, kitchen's dim light guiding my way. I burst through the back door, stumbling into the dark alley behind the diner. The night was eerily silent, broken only by the sound of my ragged breathing. I didn't dare look back, focusing solely on finding my car and escaping. Couples' shouts faded. A fear lingered, driving me forward. I reached my car, fumbling with the keys as adrenaline surged through me. The engine roared to life. I sped away, leaving the chilling diner behind. As I drove down the desolate road, my mind raced with thoughts of what could have happened. The haunting experience left me shaken. I vowed never to take shortcuts again. I found a gas station a few miles down the road, its bright lights a welcome sight. The attendant was friendly, a stark contrast to the eerie couple at the diner. I filled up my tank, grateful to be safe but unable to shake the lingering fear. Back on the main highway, I couldn't stop replaying the night's events in my mind. Couples' menacing behavior, the waitress's unsettling demeanor, and the terrifying chase haunted my thoughts. The shortcut that was supposed to save me time had turned into a nightmare. I shared the story with friends and family, each retelling a way to process the fear. The chilling encounter had left a lasting impact, a reminder of the dangers that can lurk in unexpected places. Years later, the memory of that night still sends shivers down my spine. The abandoned diner, eerie couple, and the terrifying escape are etched into my mind. It's a story I share with caution, knowing the fear it can evoke. The experience remains a testament to the unpredictability of life and the chilling reality danger can be just around the corner. It was a cold winter evening in Quebec City, and I had decided to visit the annual Winter Carnival. The streets were alive with laughter and the smell of delicious food. As I wandered through the festive crowd, I noticed an old abandoned building on the outskirts of the carnival grounds. The place seemed out of place amidst the joyful chaos, its dark windows and crumbling facade exuding an eerie aura. Intrigued, I decided to take a closer look. The building's door was slightly ajar, and curiosity got the better of me. I stepped inside, the warmth of the carnival replaced by a chilling cold. The air was thick with dust, and the floorboards creaked under my weight. As I ventured deeper, I heard faint voices coming from the basement. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and excitement. Against my better judgment, I followed the sounds, drawn by an inexplicable urge. In the dim light of the basement, I saw a group of people dressed in dark, hooded robes. They were gathered in a circle, chanting in a language I couldn't understand. The scene was haunting, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. I tried to remain hidden. My curiosity was overwhelming. I took a step closer, straining to hear their words. Suddenly, one of them turned and looked directly at me, their eyes gleaming with a sinister light. Panic surged through me, and I stumbled back, knocking over a stack of old crates. The noise echoed through the basement, and the chanting stopped abruptly. The hooded figures turned towards me, their expressions masked by the shadows. I knew I had to get out of there. I turned and ran, my footsteps pounding against the wooden floor. The eerie silence was shattered by the sound of their pursuit, basement filled with their hurried footsteps and urgent whispers. As I reached the main floor, I glanced back and saw the hooded figures closing in. My breath came in ragged gasps, and my heart felt like it would burst from my chest. I burst through the front door, cold night air hitting me like a slap. Carnival light seemed so far away, a beacon of safety amidst the darkness. I ran towards them, the sound of my pursuers growing fainter, but the fear still gripping me tightly. I reached the edge of the carnival grounds, where the laughter and music drowned out the chilling silence of the abandoned building. I stopped to catch my breath, glancing back to see if I was still being followed. The hooded figures were nowhere in sight, but the haunting memory of their eyes stayed with me. I blended into the crowd, trying to calm my racing heart. The festive atmosphere felt surreal after my terrifying encounter. I decided to report what I had seen to the carnival authorities. They dismissed my story as a prank. Frustrated and still shaken, I left the carnival and headed home. The night's events replayed in my mind, each detail more chilling than the last. Eerie encounter had left a lasting impression, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The abandoned building, once a mere curiosity, became a source of fear. Over the next few days, I researched the history of the building and found disturbing information about secret societies and dark rituals. The knowledge only deepened my fear, and I became obsessed with finding out more. But every lead ended in a dead end, and I began to question my own sanity. The memory of the chanting and the hooded figures haunted my dreams, turning them into nightmares. Months passed, and the fear slowly subsided. The memory never faded. I avoided the area near the abandoned building, the thought of it sending shivers down my spine. Carnival, once a source of joy, had become tainted by the chilling encounter. I shared my story with friends, but most of them laughed it off as an overactive imagination. Only a few believed me, and their support helped ease my lingering fear. Years later, the memory of that night still sends shivers down my spine. The abandoned building, the hooded figures, and the haunting chant are etched into my mind. It's a story I share with caution, knowing the fear it can evoke. The experience remains a testament to the power of curiosity and the chilling reality that some mysteries are best left unexplored. The Winter Carnival in Quebec City is no longer the same for me, forever marked by the eerie encounter. It was late at night, and I was driving home from a long trip. The highway was deserted, and my fuel gauge was inching towards empty. Relief washed over me when I saw a flickering sign for a gas station up ahead. The place looked run down and eerie, but I didn't have much choice. I pulled in, creak of the old gas pump echoing in the still night. The attendant, an older man with a chilling smile, emerged from the shadows. His eyes followed me as I filled up the tank, and a sense of unease settled over me. The station's dim lights cast eerie shadows, making the place look even more sinister. As I walked inside to pay, the attendant's gaze never left me. His grin widened, revealing yellowed teeth. The atmosphere was tense, and I felt a chill run down my spine. The small talk he attempted only added to the unsettling feeling. After paying, I hurried back to my car, eager to leave. But as I started the engine, I noticed the attendant standing by the door, watching me intently. His presence was haunting, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. I pulled out of the station, but the eerie sensation stayed with me. The headlights illuminated the empty highway, and I tried to focus on getting home. Suddenly, I saw the gas station attendant's truck in my rearview mirror. He was following me, his headlights glaring like a predator's eyes. Panic surged through me, and I pressed the accelerator, hoping to lose him. The deserted highway stretched on, and my fear grew with every passing mile. The truck stayed close. The attendant's chilling smile burned into my memory. The sense of being hunted was overwhelming. I swerved onto a side road, hoping to shake him off. The narrow path was surrounded by dense woods, casting eerie shadows in the moonlight. The truck followed, relentless in its pursuit. My heart pounded as I tried to navigate the winding road. The fear was suffocating, and I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. The thought of being caught by the sinister attendant was terrifying. As I rounded a bend, I saw an old, abandoned house up ahead. Desperate, I turned into the driveway and killed the engine. I hoped the darkness would hide me. The truck roared past, its headlights sweeping over the house. I held my breath, praying he wouldn't notice. The eerie silence of the night was broken only by the sound of my racing heart. The minutes felt like hours as I waited, hidden in the shadows. After what felt like an eternity, the truck finally disappeared into the distance. I let out a shaky breath, my body trembling with adrenaline and fear. The haunting experience had left me shaken, and I knew I had to find a way back to the main road. I started the car quietly and slowly made my way back. The eerie night seemed to close in around me, every shadow a potential threat. I eventually found my way back to the highway, the bright lights a welcome relief. The gas station and the chilling attendant were miles behind. The fear lingered. I drove straight home, not stopping until I reached the safety of my driveway. The experience had left a lasting impact, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The haunting memory of the chase stayed with me, a reminder of the dangers that can lurk in the most unexpected places. Back home, I shared my story with friends and family, each retelling a way to process the fear. The chilling encounter at the gas station became a cautionary tale, a reminder to trust your instinct. The eerie night had taught me to be more cautious, to avoid places that felt wrong. The memory of the attendant's sinister smile and the relentless chase were etched into my mind, a haunting chapter in my life. Years later, the memory of that night still sends shivers down my spine. The deserted highway, eerie gas station, and the chilling chase are etched into my mind. It's a story I share with caution, knowing the fear it can evoke. The experience remains a testament to the unpredictability of life and the chilling reality that danger can be just around the corner. It was a crisp autumn morning when I set out for a hike in the Colorado Rockies. The trail was serene, surrounded by towering pines and the occasional call of wildlife. As I trekked deeper into the forest, the sense of solitude was both calming and eerie. After a few hours, I stumbled upon an old, weathered cabin. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to take a closer look. The place looked abandoned, its windows boarded up, and the door slightly ajar. Pushing the door open, I stepped inside. The air was thick with dust, and the floor creaked under my weight. As I explored the dimly lit space, I noticed something odd on the walls: graffiti. Among the random scribbles and symbols, one phrase stood out: "I see you." The words sent a chill down my spine, and I felt an eerie presence in the room. It was as if someone was watching me, their gaze piercing through the shadows. The atmosphere grew increasingly unsettling, and I decided to leave. But as I turned to go, I heard a faint whisper, almost like a breath on the back of my neck. My heart raced, and I hurried out of the cabin, chilling phrase echoing in my mind. Outside, the forest seemed darker, the trees closing in around me. I quickened my pace, desperate to put distance between myself and the haunting message. The trail back felt longer and more sinister. Every rustle of leaves and snap of a twig made me jump. The thought of being watched was suffocating, and I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on my back. I glanced over my shoulder repeatedly, but there was nothing there. The eerie sensation persisted, turning my hike into a nightmare. The beautiful landscape had become a chilling labyrinth, and I was eager to escape. As I neared the trailhead, I saw another hiker approaching. I felt a wave of relief, thinking I was finally safe. But as he drew closer, I noticed something unsettling. He was covered in mud and had a vacant look in his eyes. Without a word, he passed me, disappearing into the trees. The encounter left me even more unnerved, and I broke into a run, the chilling words, "I see you," still haunting me. I reached my car and locked the doors, my hands trembling. The hike, which was supposed to be a peaceful escape, had turned into a terrifying ordeal. The forest, once a place of solace, now felt tainted by the eerie presence and haunting graffiti. I drove away, the trees seeming to watch me as I left. The memory of the cabin and the chilling message stayed with me, a reminder of the omnipresent dangers in remote places. Back home, I tried to forget the experience, but the haunting words echoed in my mind. I became more cautious in my travels, always aware of my surroundings. The world seemed darker, and the sense of being watched never completely left me. I shared my story with friends, hoping to make sense of it, but most dismissed it as an overactive imagination. Only a few believed me, their concern mirroring my own fear. Months passed, and the fear slowly subsided, but the memory never faded. I avoided hiking alone, the thought of encountering another eerie message too much to bear. The experience had left a lasting impact, changing the way I viewed the wilderness. The beautiful, untamed places now held a sinister undertone, a reminder of the chilling words and the unseen eyes. The haunting encounter had altered my perception of safety. Years later, the memory of that hike still sends shivers down my spine. The abandoned cabin, the eerie graffiti, and the haunting presence are etched into my mind. It's a story I share with caution, knowing the fear it can evoke. The experience remains a testament to the unpredictability of nature and the chilling reality that danger can lurk even in the most beautiful places. The words "I see you" are a chilling reminder of that unforgettable day.